and welcome to the Debbie Daily Show here, a late show at 11:34 p.m., 9:34 p.m. if you're on the Pacific Coast. And I am here with two of my buddies that are, hold on, it's going to squeak if I move it. Two of the most popular people on the internet today. That is Jewish producer and Mr. Midnight Movie, of course. Say hi, guys.
I just learned that the word narcissism only has two eyes. Mm-hmm. Needs more eyes. Clearly.
It has quite a few S's in it. The word narcissism has quite a few S's.
Which are known as crooked letter. Remember M-I, crooked letter I, crooked letter I, humpback I is how you spell Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Which means to be you have to be crooked. So we're talking about narcissism, and the reason we're talking about narcissism is we have recently ascertained from his doctor that Mr. Midnight Movie is, in fact, a narcissist. No, I'm joking, of course. No.
Well, I won't confirm or deny, but...
Or delete, confirm or delete.
I've never been called one, by the way. No one's ever called me that. I've accused many people of that, but I've never... I don't think that's actually... No, I'm sorry. You and someone else, only on Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah, I was gonna correct you. Don't worry.
Yeah. And I've only been called that once, a narcissist. Never in my real life. Now, you and me, Debbie, have both been called a narcissist on internet radio. Have you been called a narcissist anywhere else in your real life?
No, absolutely not. I never even really got to know narcissism until I was involved in internet talk radio. I mean, I think that a lot of people that don't do internet talk radio think that people that do internet talk radio must love themselves because they're on the internet going, hey, listen to me, I know a lot of stuff. So they tend to think that they have a narcissistic personality disorder, correct?
That may be true, and I wonder if fame, like when people become famous and powerful, if they become if that makes them more narcissistic and the more powerful they are.
Well, how about just maybe not famous, but very successful in maybe something they like their career?
I think different people have different reactions. I know a girlfriend of mine that if she were to come into money, she would let it go to her head and would be like, oh, I'm so rich, look at me. And then some people that it does. Now, let me ask you this. Would you not trust the Mayo Clinic? Now, you know a lot about the Mayo Clinic, I'm sure, because you went further in your studies than just getting a bachelor's degree. You are somewhat in the doctor realm, so we'll say. The Mayo Clinic is where anybody that is in medicine aspires to be. It's the creme de la creme of doctors. It's the top fifth of the top fifth get to go there. Their definition at mayoclinic.org is narcissistic personality disorder is a mental disorder in which people have an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. And then, of course, it goes on. But my mom always taught me the first sentence in any writing is the most powerful sentence. So it says an inflated sense of their own importance and a deep need for admiration. Those with narcissistic personality disorder believe that they are superior to others and have little regard for others' feelings. But behind this mask of ultra confidence lies a fragile self-esteem vulnerable to the slightest criticism. And I want to ask y'all something. How many of you have heard the phrase, he can dish it out, but he can't take it in?
I've heard that and I've experienced it.
So have I. In my own life with my own brother. My own brother can give out so much insults to people. He can make a mockery out of somebody at a party, and I thank God I've never been his victim, but I've seen him do it. But if you insult him in the least bit, I've seen him throw pizza across the room and walk out. Don't you think that narcissism and bullying is along the same lines, or?
Yeah, I think narcissists, and I could be wrong and stop me, but I think narcissists by nature are bullies because they do things to others they would never want done to them.
Well, can't we take it a step further and say a narcissist could even be abusive?
Yeah, but that's what bullies are. Bullies are abuse.
Yeah, but, in a relationship, it's not necessarily a bully, but there is somebody who could take it to a level of abuse. There's abusers. As we grow into adulthood, I don't think we associate the word bully as much, but it is. You're right. It is.
Because it's the behavior, I'm assuming, is bullying. And they're treating that person more as an object than as a human being with feelings.
Do you think a person is born a narcissist, or do you think that the parents, in my case, can create a narcissist?
I think it may be a little bit of both, a little bit of biology, and perhaps a little bit of environmental exposure, probably to yelling and maybe to spanking. So sometimes, I guess, if you're abused as a child, you're going to take it inward and become very self-absorbed because you're there to protect yourself. So your needs are going to become paramount, and other people's needs are going to become not so important.
I disagree, Mr. Midnight Movie. I come from a place of abuse, and my brother was hailed as a god. And he is the most narcissistic. And David, if you're out there listening, I love you, but you know this is true. I know that your ex-wife listens all the time. Sandra, if you're out there, I love you, and you know this is true. I mean, I'm sitting here reading the Mayo Clinic's list of symptoms, and it's almost as if they're describing him. Believing that you are better than others. Fantasizing about power, success, and attraction.
Message from Jewish producer.
Okay. He says he'll be right back. Exaggerating your achievements and talents. Expecting constant praise and admiration. Believing that you're special and acting accordingly. Failing to recognize other people's emotions and feelings. Expecting others to go along with your ideas and your plans. Taking advantage of others, expressing disdain for those you feel inferior to. I can't tell you how many times we've driven around and you'll see some man driving a Mercedes or a BMW, he'll go, prick.
Message from Spy in the Sky.
He'll say, prick, jerk, asshole, I could have done that, I could have been that, I could have done that, I could have been that. And
there's no, so you were the one that got abused, and he's the one who was... Because you said that in the beginning there was alcoholism with regards with your father, and that he one time got punched out by your father when he was trying to protect his mother. So that is a traumatic experience.
But this is way before that. We're talking high school at that time. I'm talking my abuse came from my mother, who was ill and was not medicated. She had some sort of a bipolar weird thing where she saw me, and I mean, you don't try to harm a 6-month-old child, and this has all been confirmed through reports from family members. I mean, she abused me. I was just her victim, and he was her hero. See, my father was in the military, so he was gone a lot, and she was stuck alone with children and was not able to handle it very much, I guess.
What was your father What was your father's view of the abuse?
Oh, he despised it. He despised it. He despised it. He despised my mother's treatment of me. And she would get, quote unquote, in trouble for it many times when he detected abuse, when he would come home from work or whatever and detected that she had been ugly to me. She would face his wrath for it. And that even compounded it then. Once he was gone again, she would look at me, well, you got me in trouble, huh, or whatever. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean?
I had the same experience, although it was with my father. And my father mainly raised me. That my mother would be at work a lot, and my father had a job that kept him home during the Monday through Friday, and sometimes on the weekends. And
message from Spy in the Sky.
He would accuse when my mother would get wind of the abuse, he would say, you got her mad at me. You made her get angry at me.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Can you hear me? I'm turning the gain down on my mic. Somebody turned the gain up on my mic, and I was too loud last night. So can you hear me okay now?
I can hear you fine.
Okay,
I can hear you fine.
Well, yeah,
But
it was a case of, and there were so many times during the older years, back when it was popular for the teenage phone to be installed, as opposed, and then you had your parental phone, because everybody had landlines, and I would go back into my bedroom and call my father at work, and he would answer 4038, and I would say, Dad, Mom's doing da-da-da-da-da, and it wasn't 10 seconds till I heard that parental phone ringing, and I could hear my mother out there answering it, and I'd be thinking, fuck, and he'd be jumping her ass, It was just a common thing in my family that she was like that to me, and some pretty heavy-duty stuff happened. I mean, I've told y'all this story about when she actually went over to Victor's apartment, and I was a grown person at that time, looking for me with a gun, and Victor wouldn't let her pass the front door because she wanted to kill me.
Yeah. I mean, but there were a lot of dynamics in between that.
Oh, absolutely,
too.
Absolutely. But I mean, I don't want to turn this on me. But all I'm saying is, it's really funny that looking at these symptoms listed by the MayoClinic.org are exactly appearing as tough-minded or unemotional, having a fragile self-esteem, trouble keeping healthy relationships, believing that others are jealous of you, being jealous of others, expressing disdain for people that you feel inferior to. That is just like, it's amazing. I never realized how much I was that close to narcissism. Doesn't that sound like David? Doesn't that sound like David, Victor?
I was going to say, they finally convinced you you're a narcissist.
No, I said, doesn't that sound like David?
Mm-hmm.
Victor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Of course, it's hard for him to talk about David. David was one of his best friends. He was his best man in his wedding, and. But it also goes on to say, although some features of narcissistic personality disorder may seem like having confidence or strong self-esteem, it's not the same. Narcissistic personality disorder crosses the border of healthy confidence and self-esteem into thinking so highly of yourself that you put yourself on a pedestal.
Yeah. And the person also might be an egotist, because there's a difference between a narcissist and an egotist. An egotist kind of lives in and I could be wrong on this, but will live kind of in a fantasy world, but deep down they feel very badly about themselves.
Well, that's exactly what they just said. They said exaggerating your achievements and talents, and then it says, which is a poorly veiled, frail person that is they're very sensitive to other people's opinions of them.
But a narcissist may be a full-blown delusional, like where he actually believes how good he is and that his shit doesn't stink. And he really cannot really distinguish between reality and fantasy, where an egotist, he deep down knows it's kind of a fantasy. He may get caught up within the fantasy itself, but deep down he knows it's a lie, where a narcissist doesn't know that.
Okay, well, what if you're, who's the guy that owns all the money out of New York? What if you're Trump? Is narcissism ever validated? What if you're Michael Jackson and you're sitting in a room of musicians or entertainers? Is it ever validated? Can you ever consider yourself, is Jesus Christ a narcissist because he was a perfect person? Or any of the prophets?
The prophets. You know what I mean? Being an atheist. But Donald Trump, for example, I wouldn't. He has a very high ego, and he may score high on a narcissistic scale. But I don't think he exhibits narcissistic personality disorder in the same way that I don't know if you remember Leona Helmsley.
Wasn't she that real mean lady that owned some business? Or no, she played the stock market or something.
Well, no, she was in the real estate industry, and then she married the gentleman of the motel franchise. And yeah, she was an absolute narcissist. Her behavior, or even Shannon Doherty of 90210, remember her?
She had the black hair.
Yeah. Now, from what I see and gather of her, she was a narcissist. She had a narcissistic personality disorder.
But I'm saying, is it ever... Look at Heidi, some...
Fleiss?
No. The good-looking Heidi that had all the surgery, that was one of those kids, the Rat Pack of the millennium. Oh, I forgot her name. Heidi something or other, the gorgeous blonde out there in Malibu. Never mind. I mean, are you...
Okay.
Is it ever validated that you're a narcissist? Is anybody ever that damn good? Let's say you have...
I think with narcissists...
Message from Spy in the Sky.
Go ahead, dear. No, not Heidi Klum.
I think the people, the best people who will decide if you're a narcissist probably are those who are closest to you. Some people, though, you can just kind of tell. Like, I would think that Jerry Lewis seems like a narcissist to me.
But how come, we were talking earlier, and I couldn't agree with you guys more, how come it seems today that there is so much finger-pointing going around, oh, they're a narcissist. They're a narcissist. Everybody's a narcissist. What's up with that? Seriously, what is up with that?
You know what? I mean, my guess would be that, we're in the age of reality, like reality TV and reality shows, and basically the narcissists are the ones who get to play. It's not the normal people who get on reality shows. It's the neurotic narcissist who all their needs and everything is on them. It's all about them.
I just don't understand why it seems like so many people say such and such is a narcissist. I just hear that around, not directed.
Well, who have they said who's a narcissist?
Well, not directed at me, but I hear people say Mr. Solution is a narcissist.
Well, I believe that, by the way.
So true.
Yeah, I believe that, because anytime somebody doesn't allow you to talk and interrupts you habitually, that's kind of a sign of a narcissist. Wouldn't you say?
What are you eating, Jewish producer? It's in a bag. This is called the time of my show where it's guess what Jewish producer is eating. Okay, it's in.
I'll give it away right now.
Okay. Chips.
Pork rinds.
What kind of chips?
What kind of chips? They are barbecue potato chips.
Wow, you were close with the Fritos, but they're nacho tortilla chips.
Oh man, you know what I love is Fritos that are chili flavored. Those are delish. They're covered in chili powder. But anyway, we don't want to get off on food. So, you know what? Back to the Mayo Clinic, which again, I think this is the God of all knowing anything medical. It goes on to say, okay, narcissistic personality disorder crosses the border of healthy confidence and self-esteem into thinking so highly of yourself that you put yourself on a pedestal. In contrast, people who have healthy confidence and self-esteem do not value themselves more than they value others. When you have narcissistic personality disorder, you may come across as conceited, boastful, or pretentious. You often monopolize conversations. Wow. You may belittle or look down on people that you perceive as inferior. You may have a sense of entitlement. And when you don't receive the special treatment that you are entitled, you may become impatient or angry. You have the best of everything, the best car, the best athletic club, the best medical care, social circles, etc. Wow. That does kind of sound like... Anyway. You dominate conversations? Wow. Did you hear that?
I've known people like that. Now, does the Mayo Clinic get into the difference between narcissism and egotism? Or the difference between an egotist and a narcissist?
No, but I think that's worth looking into. I'm going to do research here real quick on narcissism, personality disorder versus, put the V in, and I'm going to put egocynicism?
Egotism.
Ego.
Or maybe the difference between narcissism and egotism.
Egotism.
Egotism, yeah.
Egotism. Okay, that's what we got. All right. And the answer is big ego or severe disorder. Which one is it? All right. Interesting. There's a bunch of studies on this. Coming from the brainblogger.com, they say narcissism in high-functioning individuals or just a big ego. And it goes on to say, and this is by William Blake, from the clod and the pebble says, love seeketh only self to please, to bind another to its delight, joys in another's loss of ease, and builds a hell in heaven's despite.
Well, you know what? Can I retake that? Narcissism versus a narcissist versus an egotist. Egotist.
Narcissist. Okay.
Versus an egotist. Are the difference between a narcissist and an egotist?
Narcissist versus. Okay, let's type that one in here.
Egotist. Egotist.
Egotist. See what we come up with here. You can usually find some pretty good information. The difference between a narcissist and an egotist. Okay, here we go. And the answer is, the definition of narcissist is a psychological disorder which is achieved by a person's physical or mental behavior and shows excessive admiration or self-love. The egotist, on the other hand, is defined by a person who is not agreeable or not pleasant. Interesting. The difference between narcissists and egotists, we should know how to identify them and what they think of themselves and how they behave. Narcissists are various types and present with different clinical features. The features include a signature trait wherein they show more affection on themselves and try to prove that they are more than what they are. They always expect some kind of compliment from others. They act in different ways in front of others. They will blame others for their loss. Their way of conversation will be unique. Blah, 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 blah. And then it says...
See, I might be wrong. I don't think that abuse is a factor there, right? Because if they're abusive, that could put them in danger of being, put in jail. And I would imagine that isn't something that a narcissist would want, is to lose their freedom.
Right.
Well, physical abuse. I mean, I think they do everything but break the law.
Okay.
I think what they mean by abuse is just treating people like crap, maybe in conversations or something like that. I don't think they mean any real big abuse. Would you?
Well, I would consider psychological abuse, and they prey on the people who are vulnerable and weak.
Why are we talking about this, you may ask? The reason we're talking about this is we are doing basically a 3-part series on the study of narcissism. And we have a guest coming up, which is not, he's been confirmed, but we need to set up the time because he's got quite a time difference with us. But he has confirmed he is coming on the show, their show actually, our show, this show, whatever you want to call it, simulcasting, whatever. And he is a well-published expert on the subject of narcissism.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've also heard that some people, narcissism sometimes gets misdiagnosed as bipolar disorder. Or bipolar disorder, people with bipolar disorder often get misdiagnosed as narcissistic or narcissism or with a narcissistic personality disorder.
Well, now, Jewish producer, do you know if narcissism is actually listed in the what's it called in the
in the DSM?
Yes, in the DSM.
It's definitely in there.
Oh, it is. So there's an actual diagnosis of this, right?
It might be a V code.
I think there's an online DSM, isn't there?
Yeah, it's described in there. I'm not sure if it's narcissistic personality disorder. I take that back. It is definitely a diagnostic.
I did not know
diagnosis.
That. Now, I've talked to a few nurses, and they have said that. So I guess the nurse psychologists and stuff. Anytime they're given a tough time, a lot of times the nurse will describe them as borderline personality disorder. Like if they're a tough patient.
I really do not know. I think I already spelled narcissism wrong again. I'm searching the DSM at the American Psychiatric Association right now.
Well, I can tell you the code to look for. The code's probably what will pull it up quicker.
Mm-hmm.
The code's 301.81.
301.81. Let's see what I can find here. I'm at the American Psychiatric Association in the DSM. No.
I think there's a big to-do about narcissism, and they want to revise the definition and make it part of an impairment or a personality functioning disorder, pathological disorder.
I am now in the 5th edition of the DSM now. I will look it on. I will look it up. Go ahead.
Now, Dr. Drew I think he's written a book, and he has talked about narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder quite a bit.
Did you say Dr. Drew?
Yeah, Dr. Drew Pensky.
So in order to, there's, criteria that a person would have to meet to be diagnosed with with the narcissistic personality disorder. There's 8 different criteria, sorry. Yeah. And so they are, the first one has a grandiose sense of self-importance, is preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, believes that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood or should associate with other special high-status people or institutions, requires excessive admiration, has a sense of entitlement, for example, unreasonable expectations of especially favorable. Turn that fucking phone off. I will break that thing. It has a sense of entitlement, such as unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. 6 is interpersonally exploitive, takes advantage of others to achieve his or her own needs or ends. Lacks empathy. That's a big one. You'll see a lot. Is unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings or needs of others. Number 8 is often envious of others or believes that others are envious of him or her. Or number 9 shows arrogant, haughty. I don't know what that word is. Shows arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitude, such as cutting people off when they're trying to speak their mind.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. First name, rhymes with pollution.
Stop it. From the show Confronting Narcissistic Personalities, Dr. Phil Show.
Do
Take
you
a
know
listen.
a narcissist?
Oops, it stopped.
This is their favorite
Hold on.
item.
I love looking at myself in the mirror.
I don't know why it's jumping on me, but it's jumping on me.
Their favorite word is
Me.
My daughter
Oh, it's jumping.
believes that she's better than most everyone else.
My world revolves around me. Completely. That whole thing was a mischaracterization. You
It's
made me
jumping.
look horrible.
Is this a mischaracterization of her?
No.
Did they put a camera in your house, Debbie? I'm kidding.
Hey, I am not a narcissist. I have a horrible self-esteem. That's probably my biggest problem is my self-esteem. My self-esteem gets crunched on 24 hours a day, and I take it. Y'all know that I'm the most bullied person you know. Are you kidding me?
Me too. I've tried to kill myself 5 times already.
I've never tried to kill myself because I don't think if I ever tried, I would probably succeed.
You never tried to off yourself?
No, I've never even thought about it. But I do have some more audio from this.
You have an incoming call from MR. Solution.
Mr. Solution. Oh, it's going to be a separate damn call. I can't add people
like
to my
that.
calls anymore. Mr.
Like how it says
Solution.
MR.
Hold on.
MR Solutions.
Hold on, guys. Don't go away. Oh, he stopped.
Mildly retarded solutions.
Oh,
You can't pick up, Debbie?
No, here's what we're going to have to do. I can't add people to my call anymore. I don't know why. So I'm going to call him. And then, well, I can't add y'all. This is crazy.
That's very narcissistic.
I don't know what happened. Can you add Mr. Solution to our call, JP?
He thinks his call is special.
No, come on. We got to get him in here.
I'm kidding. Let's see if I can find him here. Hold on.
It's MR.Solution. Mr. Solution, if you're listening, something's happened to my Skype. I cannot add people to my call anymore. I don't know what happened. So if you don't...
If I add him, will it hang up on...
No, you need to add him, Mr.
I'll add him to the call. Here we go.
Thank you.
Dan, okay.
There he is.
Add it in.
Right. I think there you are. Hello, are you there?
Yes, I am.
We should show him my shirt, shouldn't we?
Yeah, show him the shirt.
I don't know if
and when I say show him the shirt, I mean show me the shirt again.
Show you the shirt again. You crazy guy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, dear. We can hear you loud and clear.
Barely, but we can hear you.
Wonderful.
Coming in slowly but surely. Mr. Solution is with us now, the wonderful Mr. Solution that we all know and love.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been listening to anything we're talking about, Mr. Solution?
Yes, I have. I've heard a little bit of it, and it reminds me of an ant attempting to explain the universe.
Stop it.
Not you, Debbie, but listening to these other guys. This is absolutely hilarious.
Here comes my shirt. Everybody wait. Okay, starting now. You should be able to see my shirt. Can you see it, Mr. Solution?
No.
Pretty soon you're going to be able to see it. And we want to see your shirt.
Can you see it now?
Oh, wait a minute. It says I need to accept. Now, if I accept...
Yeah. No, just hit accept. You'll be fine.
Okay.
Number 5 says, has a sense of entitlement, i.e. unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations. You fall right into that.
The fact that you don't read that very well portends that
I cannot read tonight. You're right.
Yeah, but what I'm saying...
But are you looking at this T-shirt? You cannot read either if you were looking at the T-shirt.
Where you're cutting me off. The thing is that this is so hilarious because you have people who absolutely understand zero about the subject that's being discussing it. You don't understand what narcissism is. I don't know why you guys throw that word around so freely. And if anyone were a narcissist, guess who would fit that closest? Now you talk about wait a minute, hold on. You cut me off. Now notice that. Isn't that one of your definitions of narcissism? I was speaking.
Proceed.
Thank you. Now, what is this?
Be careful, you're exploiting.
What is this sense of entitlement that you are attempting to cause me to shoulder? What sense of entitlement do I have? You guys are the begging bitches asking for $50K. So what entitlement is?
No, this is just one of the 9 criteria. I was just rereading it.
Yes.
Yeah, let's deal with that one, though, is what I'm asking. How am I entitled? And I'm having fun, by the way.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Right, we all are.
Well, you did tend to cut me off, and that is a sign of narcissism because you feel...
But you weren't speaking. It was JP that was speaking.
I am saying that in the past...
Okay, why don't you let JP answer?
Well, no, because why don't I have a right to speak? Am I beneath you? Am I beneath you? Am I beneath you?
He was... Yes, you are. He was speaking.
Narcissism.
That's actual. You got to be able to distinguish actual from narcissism. JP.
Look. Let me clear this up.
Would say something like, okay, go ahead.
Okay, hold on. Let me put it this way. Far be it that I'm just going to put it this way. I'm not diagnosing you. Okay, that's not what I do. Okay, here on this show. But Mr. Midnight Movie honestly believes and would like to prove or discuss the possibility that you are a narcissist. And I am more than willing to hear both sides.
Okay, now what about you? Let's talk about you just for a moment. What about you being a narcissist? Are you narcissistic?
I've never been called narcissistic.
Well, I'm calling you that now, and I'm asking you to analyze.
Guys, can I stop and ask y'all one question? People in the chat room are wanting to know, what the hell does her shirt say?
Oh, show everybody.
It's I love Jesus.
No. What does it say?
It says, I love Jesus.
Are you jealous?
No, it says you're just jealous.
Right.
I'm close.
And I turned on my
I like
webcam.
Jesus better.
I turned on my webcam so they could see my shirt, and it says, you're just jealous. It's just a joke.
You should have a tank top midriff that says I love Jesus.
I think I actually do. No, it says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but anyway. No, I don't want any... So, Mr. Midnight Movie is honestly accusing the great Mr. Solution, who we all know how I feel about Mr. Solution. And any time it's been behind the scenes, I want to go ahead and get this out here just for my own benefit so I can be narcissistic for a second. Anytime we've been off the air and y'all bring up Mr. Solution, I never, ever trash talk him, do I? I don't. I say, guys, you know I like Mr. Solution.
Yeah.
But they trash talk, correct?
I wouldn't say they. Mr. Midnight Movie has a big problem with you.
Sometimes I'll come up with a side remark, just as you do when I'm not present.
Let's say this, and then I want to move on to something possibly real. You have said that you didn't want you and I to express a conversation around what we agree upon. You said it's about 85 to 95% we agree on issues that we dealt with. And you said it doesn't make for good radio. And then, of course, your co-signer, JP, agreed with you. So you guys actually laid the foundation for constant conflict because you said that makes better radio. Now, I come down on the fact that that's idiotic because dealing with issues every day is inherently conflictual. So my position is to deal with life issues that kick people's ass constantly. Taxes. And Debbie, I wanted to get back to that tax situation that I and Uncle Maury were talking about last night. But having said that you guys prefer conflict over agreement, and you've said so, correct? I just want to get a confirmation.
Not me. Wait a minute. That would...
No. I'm not saying you, Debbie. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to these two truth clowns.
Hey.
You know what? I have said that conflict a lot of times is radio than agreement. A lot of times it's what the audience enjoys.
But that's not the question I asked you. I asked you a different question. I asked you, did you not say to me and JP Cosign that you would prefer not to talk about the things that we agree upon, which are the majority of issues? You would prefer conflict between us. Is that correct or not?
I believe I could. Yeah, I believe I probably said that.
Okay.
I can speak for the guys. I think that the guys are believers that drama sells nowadays, and they believe, and that's fine because I mean, in a lot of ways they're right. A lot of people on Spreaker.com that do shows believe that drama sells, and they would rather talk about drama than anything else because it does bring out the people, just like watching the Kardashians versus watching a rerun of I Love Lucy is more popular nowadays. People want conflict. They want to hear. It's like we're going back to the days of the Lion's Den when people would actually go on Saturday nights in the days of the Roman, of the emperors, and they would watch people get shredded apart by lions. I mean, what is that? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's the old drama, and I think that we're getting back to that in these end times, as they call them.
Well, that's always been there. I mean, back in the day with boxing, far brutal. It used to go 15 rounds in the 50s, 60s, and even through the 80s. And in the 50s, they'd be mopping up the floor. They'd be mopping the floor up with the blood. So, I mean, there's always been conflict, and people have always enjoyed it. I mean, it's just a little bit softer, and then now it's more verbal than it is physical.
Well, it's all verbal here. I would like to introduce another concept, which is an enlargement upon the concept I just introduced. Life is naturally drama-laden. The useless drama and the fabricated drama is what I have an issue with. For example, if we talk about inflation is drama. Do you know how to deal with that? I would rather learn how to deal with real-life drama issues as opposed to making up drama. Does that make sense? Do you follow me on that?
Okay, all right. Then let's steer this toward many of us, either now or in the future, will be caught dealing with a narcissist. And how would we better deal with somebody that has these symptoms of narcissistic personality disorder? Somebody that thinks they're better than everybody else, somebody that's always seems to be cutting people down, somebody that's like, oh, well, I could have done that. How do we deal with those people? Do we deal with those people? What if we're married to one of those people, which I'm not, but I'm just saying, what if...
Or what would you say a teenage son or a teenage boy or girl who has a parent a narcissist, maybe a mother or a father?
Exactly. And I think that is an issue worth dealing with for the people out there that are listening. And I think that is an issue that needs to be dealt with. I mean, on a relationship level. I mean, there are societal issues out there that we could deal with a lot and talk about. But like we were saying earlier, we just kind of entered a 3-part series on dealing with narcissistic personalities, and I think if with the input we can get from Mr. Solution, which is always nothing short of brilliant in anything he says, I think that if we could curtail our finger pointing for one evening and seriously try to discuss something like this, I think that it would be beneficial to everybody listening, including myself. Gentlemen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if no one's going to speak on my advice, if a teenager is dealing with a parent with a narcissistic personality disorder, my suggestion would be for them to get a tape recorder and tape them while they're talking, and maybe if they have to say, this conversation's being taped, and perhaps later on they could take it to court and sue them for emotional distress. I'm getting no comments on that.
Well, you had me until the court case, so.
Why not?
I don't see a lot of people suing their parents, but I do agree with you that with the cell phones of today, you can record anything at the drop of a hat. And I do believe that perhaps if you've got somebody that is crazy, insulting to their own child, and that they feel even superior to their own child, I think that would be worth recording and then saying, do you mind if I play something for you in a moment of ceasefire? Do you mind if I play something for you?
What if it's against it? I mean, don't children deserve justice?
I agree to a certain point, but also, you're supposed to settle your issues. I mean, you don't really sue people is what I'm saying. I mean, I don't know, whatever, that's fine if y'all want to talk about it, but I've never seen a child sue a parent or anything like that. Is that something you're...
Coleman is an adult sued his parents, and I don't know how, if that's ever been done, but I don't see why a jury wouldn't award a child some form of compensation if they feel the parent has been physically or emotionally abusive.
I'm sure that is true for anybody. I mean, I could sue anybody for... Did you know, that reminds me of something, did you know that if I were married to, say, Jewish producer, and let's say, for example, girl A, we'll call her Audrey, comes over and starts having this affair with my husband, Jewish producer, did you know that I can sue her for what is called alienation of affection?
Yes.
If she had money,
I've heard that.
I could actually sue her for alienation of affection.
And you can, I mean, the thing is, you can sue an employer for abusive, abusive misconduct. Why shouldn't, if you can do that, why shouldn't you be able to sue a parent for misconduct?
I don't think anybody's saying that you can't. There is no law on who you can sue. You can sue anybody. I mean, I frankly have never heard of, has anybody ever heard of that before? I've never worked on a case like that, but whatever.
But I mean, if you can sue because people have sued employers for behavioral misconduct and abuse, why can't a child do the same? Because an employer, you have a choice there. As a child, you know, a parent-child relationship, that child has no choice in that relationship. I mean, and it's one of the only choice. It's one of the only times a person doesn't have a choice. Everywhere else, he has a choice.
Off the AP wire 11 hours ago, okay, it says right here that a judge has recommended family counseling for a case of a teen suing parents for abuse. A judge has set a trial for a New Jersey honor student who is suing her parents for financial support after she says they kicked her out of the house when she turned 18, but recommended family counseling. Rachel Canning says she moved out of her parents' home on October the 29th after she turned 18, went to live with her friend, the friend's father, former Morris County freeholder John Inglesino is funding the lawsuit. The judge in Morristown on Tuesday denied her immediate request for financial support and recommended family counseling. They're always going to be your parents, the judge told Canning. That may not be something you're ecstatic about, but sometimes children become adults. They change their feelings on their understandings and what it takes to be a parent. A cheerleader and a lacrosse player who hopes to become a biomedical engineer, Canning had sought immediate financial support and wants to force her parents to pay her blah, 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 blah. And it looks like it's going to be maybe thrown out of court. I don't know what this audio is here. As you say, let's take a look and see. But I don't know. I've never heard of it. I mean, is this something that you want to do?
Giant fans, do you have a game plan for your health? The Hackensack University Health Network.
Shut up. I hate commercials. Are you wanting to sue one of your parents for abuse?
I mean, I've often thought of it. I mean, like I said, if you can sue an employer, which you don't have a choice over, why can't you sue a parent who you don't have a choice in whether the relationship happens or not? I mean, and maybe you shouldn't be able to sue an employer either.
Let's take a listen to what it says here. Hang on, and starting now. I think.
Maybe they're afraid that there'd be so many lawsuits that there would just be like this crazy uprising and civil war between the youth of America and the parents.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Well, maybe exceptional. It's very hard to sue somebody. By the way, I've heard it's not as easy as all that, and some are exceptions to rules, and like some behavior is so bad and it needs to be put out on blast.
Did you know that federal court, when you sue somebody, it has to go through a magistrate to see if it's even a worthy lawsuit before it's taken to before it's even allowed to be served in the federal court. I don't know if anybody in here practices federal law, but I've been getting into federal law by virtue of one of the attorneys I work for, and I didn't even know that when you file a federal complaint - lawsuit, that before it even goes into service, it goes through a magistrate court, and it has to be you have to be there's not a trial on the merit of the case, but there's actually where it's research to see if there's a merit to it. I didn't know that. They throw out out of 1,000 lawsuits they get, they probably hand over 15 to the court systems. So it's very hard to get a federal lawsuit served on anybody. But let's take a listen and see what this says. This could shed some light on us.
And Elizabeth Canning had seen their daughter Rachel in months. The broken family was briefly reunited in Morris County Court today in a hearing about whether the parent should be forced to pay her high school and college tuition.
She has essentially emancipated herself.
In court filings, Rachel Canning says her parents make upwards of $300,000 a year and are able to pay for her private high school and college. But she says she had to leave their Lincoln Park home to escape what she calls years of abuse, which she describes in court filings. Quote, "My father gave me a sense he was inappropriately affectionate with me. He once woke me up at 2 a.m. to come downstairs to drink and play beer pong with him. My mother was always demeaning toward me. She called me fat and porky," end quote. Sean and Elizabeth Canning have denied the allegations. The couple says their daughter refused to abide by a curfew and was caught drinking alcohol. They also say she was disrespectful, producing evidence of a voicemail left over the summer by Rachel to her mother. Quote, "Hi, Mom, just to let you know, you're a real winner. I hate you, and I've written you off, so don't talk to me. Have a nice life. Bye, Mom," end quote.
Have you ever, in your experience, seen a young adult, child, whatever we want to call Rachel, show such gross disrespect for a parent?
Both sides agree the situation reached the boiling point in October when Rachel was suspended from Morris Catholic High School for cutting class. Her parents took away her car and her cell phone and told her she was not allowed to see her boyfriend. Depending on who you ask, Rachel ran away or was kicked out. She's been living with a friend's family ever since. The judge seems to side with the Canning parents.
I don't think it's the court's province to step in absent evidence of abuse or neglect, which may be an issue that will have to determine, and tell the father how best to discipline.
An attorney for the Canning parents suggesting that this case would have a chilling effect on parents' ability to discipline their dependent teenage children.
To expect them to then pay all her expenses, pay this family to harbor a rebellious teenager, and pay for college is just outrageous.
Jen Maxfield, News 4 News.
So there you go. That's all I had.
Yeah, I mean, that seemed like a case where the girl had misbehaved.
It's ridiculous. Come on, people. It's ridiculous. Since when do parents get sued for a little bitch teenager like that? I mean, are you kidding me? I'm from the old school. You little inconsiderate bitch. I mean, these people brought you into the world, brought you up, and how dare you? I would say sue me. Watch me countersue you for being a little freaking bastard. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Tell me how you really feel, right?
One time, Debbie, I brought that one time up, and someone said, "You don't have any children, do you?"
Exactly. You don't. I can tell. You don't.
She said, "If you had any children, you would never say anything like that." And coming from a person who doesn't have any kids, I don't know. I guess, I
remember before I had kids, I would say things like, "Oh, well, when I have kids, my kids are never going to act like that. When I have kids, my kids will never do that." Bullshit. You don't know what it's like to have kids until you've had kids. Just like you don't know what it's like to be a woman until you are a woman. Which is why I tell men all the time, even in my real life, I've told them before many times, if you're going to act like a woman, you let me know when you're bleeding from your you-know-what 5 days out of the month, and then you can act like a woman. Until then, shut the fuck up and go chop a tree down or something. Excuse my language. I mean, grow up and be a man.
There's always, and like I said, there's always exceptions to rules. But probably, as a rule, these parents, pay for their child's tuition. I don't know if if the father is overly affectionate playing beer pong.
Oh, come on! Since when is discipline abuse? I mean, come on. No. I think that this is. I changed my mind after I saw this girl and the look on her face, and I thought, no way. I'm not going to buy into any of this. I think it's hideous. Mr. Solution, would you care to chime in or weigh in here?
Well, I think you've described it well, and I was trying to deal with other issues that confront us, but I mean, this makes no sense. See, you have Brian talking about suing your parents. They used a term that would have a chilling effect upon upon parenthood, period. The court would be way stepping over its jurisdiction to get involved in such a situation. And in fact, it's easy to sue someone. It's the easiest thing in the world to sue someone civilly. It doesn't mean that...
Not in federal court, but I understand what you're saying, but not...
I'm not talking about federal court,
Okay.
because most claims are filed civilly in what we call municipal or superior court. That's where most of your claims are filed. Obviously, you have issues in federal court, but even in municipal and or superior court, I know in California they combine and they just have superior court. You have to, like I say, it's easy to sue someone, and yes. What I was going to say is that they recommend mediation. Mediation is the order of the day. And that is true in many federal settings also. They will encourage the parties to mediate. And we have judges, retired judges, that charge somewhere along anywhere from $300 to $500 to $700 an hour to conduct a mediation session. But that's good because, if they can settle it, it saves money. It saves so much money and time and expense. But this situation, and that was I was familiar with this situation, by the way, with this girl suing her parents. She's just a brat, and the court should see that it does not have a right to enter into such a situation. And if she's 18, I think 18 is the majority in every state. That's when one reaches the age of majority. And therefore, she's not entitled to any further sponsorship. College is not it's not an obligation on the parents' part. That is something that parents do who can afford it. But a court shouldn't be ordering that to occur. And I think this case will and should be thrown out. But see, speaking to a person like Brian, and he said a number of things. I was just listening to you guys because remember, I enjoy just hearing people talk about issues and watching the evolution, if indeed it is to occur. And that is, you can't have kids suing the parents. That is not the direction that you want to carry society. Now, we broached this briefly before. We were talking about Larry Elder and his dad. Children have the privilege of growing up where things are provided for them. And they should obey their parents. They should listen to their parents. They should follow their parents' direction. This is not about a power play to where you're attempting to equalize the power between the child and the parent. That's not the way it works. Children are understood to be subordinate to their parents, and they are under authority, not in authority. They are under authority. And as a result of that, parents have the right to discipline their children and raise them up to be productive members of society. That's the goal. And while a child is a child, or what we call an adolescent or juvenile, their only job or obligation is to go to school. That's mandatory from grades 1 through, obviously, through 12. And this thing of giving kids like power when they're under the roof of their parents is alien to any healthy culture, and it just should not be. It's really ridiculous, and it shows the level of adults who are actually non-adults to even suggest such a thing, that there be an equal balance of power and authority between children and parents. So that's just basically, the way I perceive this.
Well, JP, were you going to say something? Well, there's, definitely there should not be an equal balance of power, but there are times when parents are abusive, and it's somewhat documented, or their behavior's been observed, and like I said, if a person can sue employers or companies for being abusive, why can't the same be done with a child, or maybe even an adult child who has suffered emotional distress because of their parents' abuse?
Well, for that matter, why can't a parent sue a little brat child? I mean, think about it. If they become an adult and they get really rich or something, sue them. Say, you drove us crazy, you little bitch. I mean, I don't know. I say next subject, but what do you think? I don't know.
All right, maybe we can table this for another time.
Yes.
Now that I agree. That I agree on. That the subject. It's difficult for me to deal in a subject like this, and no disrespect to you, Debbie, but I mean you're the show host. But this is nonsense. It's and two people with the credentials of our two wonderful people.
Oh, I agree, but Brian, Mr. Midnight Movie went right back to it when you stopped talking. I thought it was going to be the end of that subject.
Okay, that'll be in the end. You know what? Yeah. That'll be the end of the subject.
Well, he goes to this subject because basically Brian is a discipline. He's a discipline problem. He was a. If you think about it, now I talked to Brian and I got a lot of information from him, but he was actually kicked out of his home. And he went back when his stomach started to grumble, and he was a little bit more compliant. But see, he's a rebellious kid, and I think that's one of the major reasons life has treated him as it has. And a lot of kids are treated a lot worse, because if you can't get along with your parents who love you, you're going to have a problem with the rest of the world. Make no mistake about it.
Well, I gotta say, Mr. Solution, there are exceptions to every rule, and some people do not know how to love. I'll leave it at that. There are some people that only love themselves and do not know how to love properly.
Well, we can. Well, you know what? And we can certainly talk about that, and that's a very viable subject there. But using the extreme or the odd or the certainly unusual to, draft some sort of legislation or create a principle is ridiculous. Certainly there are abusive parents, but they are in the vast minority. Most parents love their kids. I mean, I wouldn't want, like Tom Likas, for example. I guess he's one of the most outspoken people about not having kids. I'm not as outspoken as he is, but I don't prefer to have kids because kids cut into your fun. They take up time. I've known people who couldn't go places because they didn't have a dog sitter. Now, this is a dog sitter. And when you have a child, that's a lot more of an obligation. So parents who take on rearing children.
You're preaching to the choir. I talk about PK time when I was a real person. I could jump on a plane at a whim and go to Cancun. I could do anything I wanted to, and then they got saddled where every 5 minutes if I wasn't paying somebody, they were attached to my hip.
And Debbie, not only that.
I'm kidding, of course.
I think it's the Department of Agriculture. They do these particular calculations as to how much it costs to rear a child.
Oh, don't! Especially my child. My child.
From 0 to 18, and let me just say, it's in excess of $250,000. Now that doesn't include college. From the last I heard.
No.
And college is one of the most rapidly escalating costs that.
Mr. Midnight Movie, if we were married and had a newborn baby. And I told you to go out and pick up some diapers. We were out. You know how much money you would have to spend at the local CVS?
Yeah.
$40. Can adult children sue parents for childhood abuse? Here we go. I was severely. I have an answer. It's very short.
Yeah, okay.
I was severely abused by both of my divorced parents. My father beat me, belittled me mercilessly, and fed me whatever he chose if I did not even want to eat it. I was fed paper, dog food, and made to eat inedible things because of his sick ideas of raising children. I was singled out by him. Out of 5 children, I worked construction for him from a young age. I was thrown downstairs, punched with a closed fist, and literally locked in a camper for an entire summer on a family trip when I was 10. I'm now diagnosed with PTSD due to my upbringing. My father did allow me to leave this camper when he decided to take us to a nude beach when I was 10. Both of my parents had innumerable sexual partners. I was photographed in a pornographic way by my mother's boyfriend when I was 10. Now, the answer, which is on an answer site, says, Dear sad case. What you are describing is criminal acts. Please take allegations and all pictures to your local authorities. So there you go.
Oh, I was going to ask you, Debbie, what was a more maturing experience, marriage or motherhood or parenthood?
You're kidding, right?
I'm asking since you're the only one who's both married.
When I got married to Victor, we were involved in a big society group that we ran with in Dallas. It was being whisked around in limos everywhere. We were involved in a very high society group that involved Dallas Cowboys, lots of people like that. When we had children, it was Sesame Street and bottles and diapers, and we stayed at home from that moment on, and we're still here. So there you go.
So what's the benefit of having a child?
The benefit of having a child is the undeniable feeling that you get when you look into the eyes of that child and you know that that is a creation between you and that other person, the unfathomable love that you feel watching it grow up, its first steps, giggling, laughing, nurturing the child, the pride that you feel when you take it somewhere and you get to hold it and say, this is my baby. Isn't my baby beautiful? You know, and it's just the most amazing experience you've ever felt in your life. And quite frankly, I jest when I talk about it because we wanted to know where, at the time we could have afforded any, and still, but at the time we were very blessed at a very young age to be making good money because of the business we were in. We could have afforded full-time nannies, anything we wanted, and we wanted nothing more than to stay at home with those beautiful babies. I accidentally had babies back-to-back, and I definitely mean when I say back-to-back, back-to-back. My daughter was yet 7 months old, and we were getting ready to go to the State Fair of Texas, and I thought to myself, I'm going to be riding some pretty dangerous rides, and I don't know when the last time I had my beep-beep. I go to the local Eckerd's, back then it was Eckerd's, and come home with an EPT, and I was pregnant with Stephen, and she wasn't even walking, so you can know what happened. I mean, you know, how close, they were like twins, and I had a tandem stroller, I had the whole works, so I had two kids for fun. I had two in diapers. It was quite the experience and I considered myself somewhat, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I was mother of the year in my book. I knew everything there was to do about mothering children, and I did it quite well, if I may say so. So to answer your question, I would have to say the more sobering, by even both meanings of the word, both sobering and sobering, would be having the child. There's without a doubt.
Well, Debbie, from hearing you speak, obviously, I don't know what percentage you put yourself. I'm just going to say, for lack of probably the upper 10% of the population, because I hear you say you could have had a nanny, obviously.
And I did. I had a full, when my children were... Yeah, I had a Swedish nanny when my children were 6 and 7. I hired a full-time live-in Swedish au pair, is what they're called, who lived with us. She drove our extra car, which was a BMW. She was their full-time caregiver because I inherited a bridal boutique through inheritance, and we had the choice of either selling it or running it, and it was very lucrative, and so I chose to run it for almost 2 years. And during that time we had Lotta Åkesson, who still visits us from Sweden, and she was their au pair or their live-in nanny, and she also did the housekeeping and such like that, and it was a wonderful experience, and we paid upwards to $350 a week for her, and we're very It didn't hurt us the least. So there's your answer. But when they were born, I never even had a mother. So I was 100% their full-time caregiver, 24/7. We never left them with babysitters. We didn't trust anybody. We knew that when children couldn't speak, that there were things that could happen to them. We also realized that nobody else loves our children but us. I think if people out there will be more careful, little things won't happen when they're in the care of other people. So there you go.
Well, I agree with that, but just one thing I'm pointing out, you were unique in the fact that, I alluded to the fact that other night that I believe USA did a study where to achieve the American dream, one had to acquire, or a household had to acquire $134,000. Now, obviously, that changes depending on your locale. Like New York and San Francisco one would need more. But see, you've lived this sort of highfalutin lifestyle, a higher lifestyle than most of the people that you're talking to, particularly that come on.
Mr. Solutions, my husband's business averaged $40,000 a month total sales when I got pregnant with my son.
And you're not bragging now, are you?
I'm just telling you facts. If it's bragging, it's bragging. I'm just telling you facts. I mean,
right.
He had the #1 bail bond business in Dallas, Texas. It was across the street from the courthouse. When you walked out of the Lou Sterrett Justice Center, it was the first sign you saw. You tell me, you do the math. And as the children grew and we got older, more bonding companies arose around. See, Victor was very smart. When the Dallas County Courthouse bought property on the other side of the river, okay, Victor knew through the grapevine that they were fixing to build the brand new Lou Sterrett Justice Center. So what Victor did is he went over there and bought the property across the street that was going to be a parking lot, and he sublet from the guy that owned the parking lot a piece of property big enough to put a mobile building on that became a permanent building. But anyway, he foresought this, and that was when we catapulted. I mean, when we got married, we had just opened it. I actually furnished it. I helped him set it up. I helped him set up the whole thing. And then when Ralph Black, who was the #1 bail bondsman in Dallas, I mean, he had an office like downtown or something. Ralph Black had 95% of the attorney business in Dallas. When Ralph Black passed away, I took it upon myself to start a campaign. I went to the State Bar of Texas. I received a mailing list of every criminal attorney in Dallas County. I went door to door, shaking hands with a miniskirt on and a business suit, and introduced us. I secured the writing power of probably 50% of every criminal lawyer in Dallas after the birth of my son. And then after I said, there you go, take it and run with it, Victor. And then my beloved father stepped in and began to be my husband's manager for the business. And so we felt very secure because my father was the utmost in trustworthy people. He practically ran it from the moment that Victor left at 4 for the rest of the evening, all through the midnight hours and through the small wee hours of the morning. And it was amazingly lucrative for a number of years. And Victor still had foresight and put away as much money and bought as many properties as he could, and just really kind of set us up. And I mean, I can almost say that right now we're living off interest. And so there you go. I mean, you just have to have foresight. You have to know what businesses to get into. You have to know where the money is, what to get into. Guys, when I got out of college, I had the possibility of either being a psychology teacher somewhere in a high school. No, I did research at the library on my own. What was the most lucrative business to get into as a female? And I found out it was being a legal secretary, and that's what I went to do. So I went to the root of the legal system. I went to the Dallas County Courthouse, knocked on the door. I talked to T.E. Moore, and I said, I'd like to work here. He put me in a felony criminal district court as a clerk, and I clerked there for 2 years, and then I got picked up by one of the lawyers that would come in there every day and file motions and pleadings and stuff like that. He said, I want you for my office. And from then I catapulted into what has been history making. I went into running the law office of one of the number one biggest criminal attorney in Dallas. I literally ran his office, and the rest is pretty much history after that. So now I'm just a mom. So anyway, that's the story of my life pretty much. But no, I mean, I'm trying to be,
Did you deal with a lot of criminal, like people who were being like with your husband with the bail bondsman situation? Did you deal with a lot of probably like personally with a lot of criminals and stuff, and talk with them and deal with them and things like that?
Well, I've told people many times that for years my children's godfather was Esteban. Esteban was the Cuban cartel king out of Miami, and he would call me Devi and him Victor. He would say the V's as a B and the B as a V. He would say, is Devi there, or Bic? I need to speak to Bic. May I speak to Bic? Is Devi? And it was so funny to listen to Esteban talk. Esteban got killed maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, and so yes, I have known some pretty big criminals in my day. Now, when I worked for Robert, we represented the number one defendant in the Snow White case that went down in Denton, Texas, in Denton County. We had to go up there and get rights to practice up there in Denton County. Snow White was where our client, our defendant, Jaime Corona, sold 51 keys of pure cocaine to an undercover federal officer, and he walked on a not guilty. He was found. He was acquitted of all charges.
Now, did you find people who were committing crimes? Did you find like heavy doses of narcissism in them, or couldn't tell?
No, that pretty much went along with being some of the bigger criminals. Yeah, I would say absolutely narcissism. They would come in and goes, Vic here, and we'd be like, do you have an appointment? I don't need an appointment. Where's Vic? And we would just lead them right into Victor's office, because some of these people are very scary, and they're very intimidating, and I think that has to do with narcissistic behavior, is to be very intimidating to other people. And there were many intimidating people that we met and dealt with throughout that business, and also with Roberts. But where I shined with Robert is I shined in intake, and intake is where I actually would make the appointments with me, and Robert was astounded that I would collect fees, which is highly against the bar to collect fees as a paralegal. But I would quote fees to these people, and I would say, hi, guess what, you have an attorney, you hired James Scott as your new client today, and here's your $15,000 retainer fee. And he'd be going, damn, Debbie. I'd bring them in and knock them down as fast as the phone would ring. But I mean, I did so well in his office. He got me an assistant, put me in my own private office, and put somebody else out there to answer the phones and run the whatever. I had an assistant. And if you want to hear about Robert, you can go to the Dallas Observer, and it's a newspaper here in Dallas, the Dallas Observer, and simply type in Robert M. Rose, R-O-S-E, and you will see a 9-page story on this man. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I feel like
what
I'm
percent of the? I was going to ask, what
here.
percent of the criminal element are the people that you were dealing with who were asking for bond? What percent would you say it come from abusive parents?
I think that people first and foremost get what people that come from abusive parents are like. People are under the impression that if you come from an abusive parent, that you are a stuck-up narcissist because you're trying to hide all this bullshit. I totally disagree, and I speak from 100%. I was abused. We become enablers. We become people that want to please. I was always teacher's pet. We become people that were not given so much affection, so we seek it with other people. We are very forgiving. We're very I've studied this all my life, and usually the little bastards that you see were spoiled as children. They weren't abused. Narcissists weren't abused. It's just the opposite.
You know what I mean? I think it runs the gamut because someone talked about sexual abuse, and some people, some like girls who are sexually abused, some of them become very permissive, others become very withdrawn.
Well, I was never sexually abused. I want to get that straight right here.
No.
Okay.
But I'm talking about
right. No, you're right. No, you're right. You're right. You're right.
And all people handle that differently, but they all handle it unhealthily.
Well, and it's like I've always said, keep your baby off the pole. You know, they say that girls that are on the pole are singing the "Daddy Doesn't Love Me" blues. You know, so yeah, you're right. I think it was a lot of strippers, women like that are promiscuous. I believe that they had an absentee father, even if he was physically there, he wasn't emotionally there, and I think they're out. For some reason, it always seems to be that way with.
And I've heard that too. I think there should be I would love to see a study on that. When women who work in the pornography industry are the sex industry, whether it's be strippers or as adult film actresses, if it's abuse or if it's a daddy issue where the dad didn't love them or was absentee.
Well, me being one person in this whole gigantic, I always tell the kids I'm one grain of sand on the beach of life, and I personally knew women that had absentee fathers that just weren't involved in their lives at all. That, you know, the old song says, "The greatest man I never knew lived just down the hall." You know, I've said many times I never even spoke to my father until right after my mother died, and we began, and that's the only years that I remember of him, is we bonded so closely that it was miraculous. But it had to be because she was the barrier in between he and I. There was such a bizarre, strange jealousy there that it was unthinkable. But like I said, I don't want to make this about me, but when I get asked a question, I want to give the right answer. But, you know, I do believe, though, Mr. Midnight Movie, you're right. I think if you meet most strippers, and we met a million, I couldn't tell you the whore bonds we did. And it seemed like they always were singing the "Daddy Didn't Love Me" blues.
Now, were the strippers in there, like the strippers that you had in there and your bail bondsmen, was it for prostitution or drugs?
Well, whore bonds are the worst bonds in the world because they never go to court, so you're practically writing a bond forfeiture when you have one walk in, and you want to get full collateral. But if you have a pimp walk in and he's getting one of the whores out of jail, then you can get them out. But what was your question?
So whore bond. So they're called whore bonds.
Yeah, in the business we called them whore bonds.
Now, was it mainly like they busted a strip club and?
No. Well, all that had to do was with an undercover officer goes into a strip bar, right, and goes into the VIP room, and she says, for $100, we'll go have boom boom or whatever, or, you know, all you have to do is solicit sex, and he's got the cuffs on you in 10 minutes, and trying to shut the business down too for allowing it, but that was never happening because they didn't know what was going on in the VIP room. So. But no, most or just streetwalkers, your basic streetwalkers, which every policing agency has got an undercover vice group out there that is walking the streets that are trying to keep the prostitutes off the streets, and they're busting them.
Now, I know in Los Angeles, the streetwalking, because of the internet, and it actually left in the 90s. Street walking in Los Angeles because Vice really started cracking down. Hollywood and Vine used to be a big place for streetwalkers, and then it just turned into Craigslist and Backpage, and they just started soliciting first in the newspaper and now on the internet. So street walking is not even an issue anymore. Was it still an issue in the 2000s where they had actual street walkers?
We could go out there right now to Harry Hines and find them, Mr. Midnight Movie. They're out there right now they call it the track. They're working the track. The track is Harry Hines Boulevard at the corner of Northwest Highway and Loop 12 in Dallas. They're working the track right now. Yeah.
Really? Because that's
Dallas is big. Dallas is big. You know, so. But
ethnicity
They're mostly African American. I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of them are African American, I think. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is in this town for some reason. But you don't see much Mexican American. I mean, there are some, whatever. I mean, to me, I've said 1,000, that's just skin color, but whatever. You know, there's just, I mean, one of my very best friends, I've told y'all, was an actual prostitute, and her name was Chrissy, and she was a very good friend of mine until she moved to Lufkin, Texas. But anyway, I digress. But you know how it's done nowadays? You'd be shocked. There's cell phones, okay? It's called, they call that lines, working the lines. What you do is you have all of these numbers everywhere around Dallas. You have business cards that have it on there. All these lines are forwarded into one line, and that's your madam that works the lines. And she takes the calls for the girls. And you could have 30 different phones that are forwarded into this one line. And it's a dangerous way to do it. You can get busted with the cops easy, but that's usually the way they work it right now, is they have what they call working lines. And like if I had a cell phone right here, that would be, I have my own little business going where I'm out, you know, saying, here, call me for this, call me for that. And they get away with it by saying this. They say, it costs, you ask for a date, and they say, for $200, Debbie will show up at your door. And then when I get to the door, and of course I don't do this, but I have to verify I have to call in your driver's license number, and they run the driver's license number, and then you pay me, and then what happens after that is just two people on a date, and nobody knows of what you're paying me or whatever. I mean, it's you see what I'm saying? And that's the way they hide it and get away with it. I saw Christy do it many, many, many nights. She would get a call from her, what they call the madam, and she would say, okay, I've got you set up to be at Hotel Zaza at 11 p.m. You're going to be meeting with Mr. Midnight Movie, and he's already paid over the phone. So when you get there, he's already given his visa to the madam over the phone, the $200, and then anything above and beyond that is just two people that are doing business between themselves.
Yeah, the hell with that. I'd never trust an organization. Yeah, I guess people do that, but
it's more into protecting the girls. It's more into protecting the girls than it is in the customer, because the customer, you just want to make sure they're not a cop, and you want to make sure that they're not a crazy person. But a lot of the girls are actually licensed to carry weapons, and they do. Believe it or not, they actually have concealed weapons on them in their bags or whatever, in case something gets a little bit nutty. To be honest with you, but I digress. So
now, how often did you get like Johns, like who were being bailed out of? Did you get any of those too, who were in jail for being a John?
For solicitation? Not very often.
Yeah.
Not very often. They usually go for the girls more than they do the men. Not very often, because it's hard to bust them. You'd have to be a policeman disguising yourself, and that borders on entrapment. You have to be very careful when you're out there posing as a prostitute and saying, hey, baby, you want to go for, whatever, because that's entrapment in a lot of ways. So that's a very thin, slippery slope right there. Can we change the subject? I feel this is all about me.
Okay. No, I was just, because
I mean, if it's interesting, then fine.
That actually happened to that entrapment.
I have a comment. I think what you're saying, what makes prostitution work, is the initiation of the women. Women are initiating the contact.
Yes, verifying, getting him cleared. Once that's done, you're free. I mean, it's whatever. But and if I come over to meet you, Mr. Solution, and you ask me to spend the weekend with you, you're going to pay me a lot of money. But that doesn't go through the channels. That goes straight to me, and it's up to me to report that to the service. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I was just dealing with a very, very narrow aspect, and that was the inception of contact, the initial contact. That's what you just described.
Right.
The woman initiates the initial contact.
Right, exactly. And
I agree with you involving entrapment. In your statement of entrapment, when you have to coax someone into participating in a crime, I think that is definitely, the entrance.
Well, one of the biggest entrapment cases I ever worked on in the state of Texas was involving a drug-sniffing dog at a school sniffing lockers. That was bordering on your rights at because in the state of Texas, a locked briefcase, anything that has a lock on it, becomes your temporary residence, and it involves the 4th and 14th Amendment. And that was the most thrilling thing I'd ever worked on. And there were children... Sir? Did you say something? Did somebody say something?
No.
There were children at the local high schools. They were bringing the local authorities were having these drug-sniffing dogs go by the lockers. And when they smelled marijuana, they would bust open that locker with a big pliers, and they would go find that kid and arrest him for possession of illegal substances on a school ground. And there were a lot of those cases that were thrown out because it was a gross violation of their civil rights to have something in a locked. Believe it or not, a locked briefcase alone is considered your home. Did you know when you're in a hotel room, when you rent a hotel room, that's actually your place of residence? They cannot cross the threshold without a search warrant. And to obtain that search warrant, they have to see something invisible. So it's a big, big deal down here. And some of the most thrilling cases I've ever worked on had to do with search and seizure, illegal search and seizure, as we call it.
That reminds me, because I just recently today I saw the movie America, and our rights are rather unique. Unreasonable search and seizure. Our freedoms are quite unique, and they don't fall. They're freedoms that are not in other countries.
I agree. I know there are a lot of people. Mr. Solution, we're leaving Jewish Producer out of this, but I know he likes to sort of listen sometimes.
Yeah, I think he had to go. He just left.
Oh, that's fine. Okay. A lot of times people don't believe in this country we even have rights, that we don't have rights, absolute rights. How do you feel about that, Mr. Solution, under the bill? Speaking of the Bill of Rights is what I'm saying.
Well, it's obviously the question gets a little philosophical, but it's relative. And I think we do have rights. I think we have rights just based upon our personage. But I think a lot of us don't enforce our rights. And look, I think the way things have gone throughout history, I studied a little bit of world history, obviously. The history of the Bible that hinges on a lot of different developments. And that is, people were generally used for their labor, for their power to enrich others. Like with the king was considered appointed by God, considered themselves appointed by God. Or even when you deal with dictators, it has to do with their personal, and I'm going to call it unjust enrichment. And that's generally the thrust of their desire for power. And I think, Debbie, but something that goes unsaid here is like your class. You often state your class. Now, you're educated, you're wealthy. I listen to things and I calculate. And I think a lot of people don't. They're just not taught to think very well. Now, you come off as being in the upper class and a lot of the things you do, but you express it. You are the one that expresses it.
But I don't say that I'm upper class. I don't say that.
Well, you don't have to say it. There's what's called synonymous or equivalent. And when you say who you are, when you talk about having a business...
Well, does that make me a narcissist?
No, I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry.
Well, I'm not... See, I haven't come to that conclusion necessarily that you are a narcissist. And I really don't care a lot if you are or if a person is. What I'm concerned about is basically how a person treats me.
I mean, I could lie. I could always lie and say, we live in squalor, and I mean, but
one of the.
I don't think you need to lie, but I think at the same time, like say for example, the difference between you and say your buddy 3M. There's a huge difference. He sees it, I see it, and I'm sure you see it.
I don't hold myself above anybody. I've got friends.
Yeah, but that's not the point. See, there's what's called false humility also, and it is as bad as attitude or excess or arrogance, as it were. And so what I'm saying is, what I was trying to say is that your financial status is better than about 90% of the American population. Much better than 3M. So all things being equal, that puts you in a more comfortable position to actually be yourself. And when I talk about having a year's salary in reserve, that's no problem for you. You understand that. And having all your bills paid. You have no issue with that, right?
No.
So most people...
But that doesn't make me better than anybody.
Yeah, and I want to say...
Go ahead, Mr. In that movie. Hang on.
It makes you different. Now, you're using... I wouldn't say better.
It's hard. It's hard to hang out with people that I went to school with, maybe, because they don't... I'll say, hey, let's go... blah, 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 or whatever. And they're like, well, we kind of, need to watch our or whatever. And that's fine. I mean, I can't tell you the millions of times that I have paid people's way here, paid people. I mean, I have done that more than not. Paid for dinners, paid for whatever. And I even had a friend of mine that's kind of, her name's Tammany. Tammany lives in Plano. She's come from a very wealthy family. And she even asked me one time, she goes, how can you hang out with such and such and they are in this financial situation? And I was so confused by her saying that. I thought, I don't know, to me, whatever. I mean, I've just never looked at myself as better than anybody. Like I said, I mean, I'll get down with anybody and have a ball. It's doesn't bother me. But
you keep using the word better. I wouldn't use the word better. I would use the word different. Now, you could be better. But see, the thing is that what I'm saying to you, that is who you are. And you're less limited, whereas the other person that you were speaking of, particularly the person that you had to pay their way, they were limited. And I think those are the things that we refuse to confront. And that makes us, but not necessarily narcissistic, but it makes us disingenuous. And, there's an element of disingenuousness attached to narcissism. But take, for example, a person like 3M. My position for him would be to want to improve. Now, a person who didn't want to learn, and I'm sure a lot of those people who couldn't afford to go to certain places, you may be able to say to them, this is how you can do that. And then the rub becomes, they want to change their lifestyle to enhance their lifestyle. And if they don't, that presents conflict. Go ahead, Priya.
Okay, I just wanted to mention in the documentary America, they mentioned that there were wealthy people. I forget he was a gentleman who was from France, but he was saying that there were wealthy people in America, but they were indistinguishable between the poor there. They all kind of intermingled, and they weren't treated differently like in other countries. They kiss the feet of the wealthy, and there is none of that. And there was none of that in America back then and today. We treat people the way we want to be treated, and if you don't do that, you pay a price for that.
I don't understand what you just said.
If you're a snob, you pay. I mean, if you're a wealthy person and you're snob, I mean. There are people that are wealthy and they have nice things, but they're not braggadocious about it, and they're not snobby about it.
Right.
And there's a big thing in this country about snobbery, It's not about being wealthy, having a nice car.
Okay, when it comes to the case of me, had I not been questioned about this, I would have never brought it up. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah. I don't consider you to be a snob. I mean, you talk about nice things, but not in a snobby manner.
No.
And people do the same thing sometimes with their education. They do it in a snobby way.
Right, and I've known plenty of those people. Trust me.
I know, yeah.
Well, what happens, let's just go ahead and
how do you define disingenuous, Mr. Solution?
well, it's just not being truthful. It's being deceitful.
And when you're speaking of me, do you see any disingenuous?
Miss, I didn't say, I said something, I think my words were something could be disingenuous.
Meaning what?
If one has to hide.
Lying about the fact that I do have money. Is that what you're saying? Or lying about what? I don't understand because...
No, I'm just saying, in other words, in other words, look, and I agree with what 3M just said. Most people should be able to be who they are. That's what makes what we call compatibility. But like, say, for example, with the people, Debbie, you said that you hung out with who didn't have the money to go to place X, that both you and they wanted to go, correct?
Right.
Now, what had to happen was either you had to pay for them to go there or they couldn't go.
Right.
But now that shifts the burden on you, because how often do you do that? If you guys like to go to that place on a regular basis, then you've got to, in a sense...
Well, I can tell you this. My brother, his wife, and children never once missed a Byron Nelson golf tournament. They never once missed the Colonial. They never once missed going snow skiing. They never once missed going to the beach in Florida because
wait a minute, that's family. I'm just talking about if you're right, and I understand that. What I'm saying is, if you're dealing with a person and they're a friend, most of us deal with people other than, just our family. Well, then they become a dependent because if you guys like to do certain things, and you like to do those things, but they can never pay, so that becomes a problem. Now, with 3M, 3M picks the fight. Now I don't know, and he has these little weird ways of taking his jabs, which are, okay with me. I don't too much give a damn. But see, he'll puff up and present an issue in a forceful way and challenge people, and then when someone comes in and kicks his ass, and then he complains about it. So I mean, he doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand what he's really doing. And I'm not a snob with whatever I know. I share what I know.
Not true.
But when a person, excuse me?
Not true.
Well, you're lying. See,
no, I don't believe that. I don't believe you share what you know. Because if I ask you,
you interrupted me.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. The point is, I don't care what he thinks. When he challenges me and it becomes competitive, which he creates, then it's on. I don't mind competing with him.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
But you may disagree with it, but you'll never own up to what you do. And see, this is a form of narcissism, too. You will always blame the other person. You never take responsibility for any conflict that develops.
No, I mean, I'll take blame. If I'm in the wrong, I'll take blame. I've taken blame for interpersonal relationships that I've had. And
I'm talking about with me.
Oh, with you? Well, no, I don't take any blame because...
There you go.
Well, no, I think your behavior for the most part is very boorish. And at times, you're very snobby. You'll ask me a question. I forget, a couple of days ago, you asked me if I knew what meta-study was. And I said, no, I haven't heard it before. And you said, why don't you go to school? Now, that is a very rude and very self-centered thing to say.
No, it's not. It's perfectly legitimate.
No,
anybody, let me tell you why. I'm going to tell you why.
You're the only person I've ever known to do that.
Allow me to tell you why. You're wrong.
Yes.
Because first of all, there's history with you and I discussing issues. And you will aggressively and in a challenging way, which that was a challenge, you will present your particular position. But then you want me to educate you, to help you oppose me. That's like financing a war against myself. That's stupid. I'm not going to give you information that is germane to the issue, give it to you, and then you use that information to further assault me.
Well, you're defining...
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
That's where you don't understand the issue or how to properly present the issue. You would always lose a case in court. You would never win. And that's the reason you lose the argument. And the problem with you never understand where you are on a particular issue. Yes, I said it was a meta study. And this is what I said to Debi. The meta study includes all the other major studies. So, and your point was, well, he's just giving us one study, which meant that you were ignorant of the entire scenario. And you haven't read that PDF to date, right? That's a comprehensive study. You haven't read it, have you?
I've read portions of it. Now, wait. Let me get back, because I thought we were just having a discussion, not an argument. And I thought I could learn things from you. Perhaps you can learn things from me. But I think it's a very self-centered thing. If I say I don't know something, what is it? And to tell me that I need to go to school. That's very.
I think Mr. Midnight Movie. I think Mr. Midnight Movie is very. I think Mr. Midnight Movie is somewhat diffident with his knowledge of things. I think he is much more knowledgeable than he appears on the internet radio here. I've talked to him many times off air, and he's never. I have never ever formed the opinion that Mr. Midnight Movie is in any way stupid or anything like that. I never have. For some reason, I haven't.
And even if I
never thought he was as stupid as he presents himself. I always thought it was just a shtick.
Yeah, but Mr. Solution, even if
he does it so well. So I mean, But this is the thing, Brian. If you want me to engage you differently, then you come at me differently. You ask me a question instead of fighting with me, and then I'll answer your question if I know it.
Okay. Well, I thought I was coming at you in a form of a question manner.
Well, I'm explaining that you weren't.
Yeah. Well. Okay. Then perhaps I wasn't. I'd have to relook at it. But one of the reasons that it made me so angry was I thought no one's ever come at me in the manner that you do. If someone says, "Do you understand this?" and I say, I haven't heard that before. No one's ever said, "Why don't you go to school?" No one's ever. I've never come across any human being that has ever said anything like that.
Well, what is so bad about that?
It's obnoxious.
No. What is so bad about it, specifically? Don't you think school is a good thing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Don't you think higher education is a good thing?
Sure.
Well, why is it so bad for myself, for me, to say, get a higher education? Why is that so offensive?
Because it's unnecessary.
Well, what do you mean? Look.
Isn't that self-evident?
Wait a minute. Hold on. I make the determination if it's necessary because it's part of my answer. You just said you consider it a good thing, and I'm just saying get a good thing.
Yeah. A huge number of college graduates today are waiting tables.
Okay, but that's besides the point. Does that mean that you would wait tables if you got a college degree?
Sure. It may not.
Well, in some people's line of work, I think unless you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor or a CP, something in particular, if you are just going to go be in business, I don't think college is necessary.
And I've heard even today, and I could absolutely be wrong, but I've heard today that getting a law degree is not what it used to be. That today they outsource a lot of their law clerking to India, for example, where they could get all that written and that written information and that research done overseas, much cheaper. And that's what a lot of law students do. They clerk, but they can get their clerks overseas.
Well, that has a basis in fact, and computerization has changed the field because less people are available. There have been a lot of layoffs at the courts. But look here, I say to anybody, taking some law courses is always a good thing because our country we are a nation of laws and we follow the rule of law. So reading contract, you take a couple of courses in law, you never read a contract the same. You just understand more because the law governs everything. And even when you read a warranty, that has legal repercussions. And in fact, that was understood, years ago. And I'm going to say even now. So whether one actually practices law is beside the point. The good thing is to have that understanding. And my telling you to get a good education, that just simply means I see a fracture in your armor where you would be strengthened. I'm not telling you that to beat up on you. I'm just telling you that as a fact. Because there are certain things, like you like to enter into conversations where there's so much missing knowledge that a certain person who has the understanding can't have that conversation with you, especially if you're in a bellicose or oppositional mode of behavior. So that's the problem. But if you want to know something from me, I have no problem explaining it to you. But if you come at me in a fight, in a fighting way, then that changes the whole schematic.
Well,
you should understand that.
I have felt that I've only come in you in a fighting way, particularly that one time and a couple other times. I've only come at you in a fighting way when I always feel when you exhibit obnoxious behavior at me, and that does get me into a defensive stance and gets me to verbally come at you.
Well, if I go, and you really don't come at me intelligently verbal, because using all those names like cunt, that just makes you look silly in my eyes, and I think in a lot of other people's eyes. But the point I make to you is that all you need to do is just ask a question. And the fundamental point that I've already made to you, which you keep dancing around, is that you said with me you prefer conflict. And your buddy, your bosom buddy, said, well, I hope you guys never make up. I hope you never change. In other words, referring to that we were always in a conflict situation. So you have to look at what some of the fundamental things that you've said have laid the foundation for you to attempt to be overly confrontational. I'm far less confrontational than you are. Now, I can be very confrontational if the situation requires it, but that's not my normal MO, is to be confrontational.
Do you think you're better than me?
I think I have performed better in life than you have, absolutely.
Okay.
Do you differ with that?
I don't know.
I went to the military and I was honorably discharged. And in fact, I encourage young people today who don't have another advantage to go into the military because they can work full time, get paid, get 30 days vacation, 1 month vacation, and pretty much travel anywhere in the world they want to go. Now, one has to know how to operate in the system and have a likable or an affable enough personality in order to accomplish that. Because when you go in and speak with your company commander, you have to be able to explain to your company commander why he should allow this to happen to you, you see. And I was always able to do that. I never had one problem. Now, obviously, little issues came up, but I always solved those. Nothing major, nothing of any super import. So sure, I have been a lot more successful in life than you have. I followed the rules. You asked me the question. I followed the rules. The rules do work. They do work. And I followed them repeatedly. I don't do things that don't work.
What made you join the military?
Well, I had planned to have an entire career. I should have. I didn't join ROTC. There were about 3 or 4 of us, and I joined after I finished college. So I was, I don't say a little bit more mature. I was still young, but I had very good grounding. I had very good discipline, and I think that's what made it a breeze for me. But I got good training. I have good mechanical aptitude and academic aptitude, and I applied myself, and it pays off. It just does. So I tell people what I have actually experienced. I could talk to the company commander. We lived in the same tent, like the few times that I did go out, on what do they call it, on a field trip. And I generally was able to avoid those. But the few times...
Yeah, but most of the time that Mr. Midnight Movie has been of the age to join the military, sir, it's been wartime. It hasn't been peacetime. Hence, I have not given the approval of my son going off into the armed forces because it's been wartime, and it's been a very shady... bad war. I mean, it's not a real, like, World War II. That's the last, in my opinion, World War there was.
Well, I thought the Korean War was an honorable
war. Conflict, well, it wasn't declared a war by Congress, but the Korean conflict, go ahead.
Yeah, my father was involved in that. I don't know.
That was in the 50s. That was in the 50s, by the way. But
in the very late 50s.
Excuse me?
It was in the very late 50s, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And my whole thing, and the thing of a lot of young college students, always, especially males, and this is another social differentiation that is made between men and women that needs to be closed, and that is their obligation for, right now, is military registration. But you're right, and everybody who's smart avoids war. You don't want to go to war. I mean, you want the benefits, you want to serve your country, but you don't want to go to war. And there are ways of going in the military right now and avoiding war, or even the theater, And if I were in the military, I would avoid it. I mean, who the hell wants to go to war? Look at what they just did for the veterans, the Veterans Administration. You recall the big hoopla about they had an alternate list and where they weren't servicing the veterans, and a lot of them died. Hello?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Well, there's an unwritten rule that if you're smart, you don't go to war. You avoid that. So I'm in perfect agreement with you. I was counseling some young people, and that was one of the first things they said.
Would it be safe to say that you joined the military during peacetime, at least?
Well, yeah, sure. But even if I joined, during non-peacetime, there are still ways to avoid going to war.
And how would that be?
And there are safer branches of the service. Say, for example,
the Navy.
Air Force or the Navy. Excuse me?
The Navy's pretty safe.
Yeah, the Navy or the Air Force. The thing you don't want to do is be in a ground combat.
Mm-hmm. The Army or the Marines.
In the Army or the... exactly. Mm-hmm. So you get in a position...
And, of course, where does my son want to go? The Marines, of course. And
right. Well, I mean, I'm not knocking people who do that, but most people will avoid that because you don't want to... Some things you shouldn't even see. Some things, if you see them, I mean, it messes you up psychologically. I think you saw First Blood. I think that was a very good type documentary. But look, I'm pro-military. I think the military is great. I think it teaches people discipline. It tests you in ways that you normally wouldn't be tested. And there are decent benefits. But all of this, one has to apply themselves in order to be able to realize. So, yeah, we're 100% in agreement.
You know where they got the term passive-aggressive?
Yeah, I think from a military officer.
Mm-hmm. It came from World War II when men that were what's the opposite of general enlistment? They're called
draftees.
When the draftees were drafted into the military and had a very hard time complying with senior officers that were yelling at them and giving them orders, and so they would go home when they were on leave or when they got out, and they would abuse their wives for what should have been directed. I mean, the anger that they felt towards their senior officers. Did you ever know that? That's a fact.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You know.
Okay.
I'm just putting it out there for no reason, really.
Yeah.
But he asked me a question, and I don't know if he was satisfied with the answer. He asked me if I thought I was better than he is, and no, I don't think I'm better than necessarily anybody, but I may perform better. With human beings, your nature as a human being is that. Now it's what you do. And Brian 3M, you are very challenging. You are very in your face. Now you accuse other people of doing it, or in this case me, to avoid noticing your own, I would say, flamboyant and aggressive behavior.
Well, I feel I'm only aggressive with individuals that are aggressive with me, or in my opinion act inappropriately, and then I consider it a form of self-defense.
I want to try something. I want to try something between the two of you, as like in a therapy type situation. I want to see Mr. Midnight Movie. First of all, can you say 3 admirable qualities that you admire in Mr. Solution? 3.
3 admirable qualities. He's well spoken. He's got a good vocabulary, and he does make me laugh at times.
Mr. Solution, are there 3 admirable qualities that you can say about Mr. Midnight Movie?
Oh, I love Mr. Midnight.
Or more.
I think he is. Excuse me?
Said or more, if you had them.
Well, yeah, there are many more than 3. I'll just limit it to 3, but there are a lot more than 3. He's a funny guy. I think he does listen somewhat, and he is. Well, let me leave it at that, because I think that could probably be multiple ones right there. See, he will at least stop. He won't be completely insane to where he just keeps rambling on. He will stop and listen for a moment. And but I have always said I like the guy. I don't have any reason to dislike him. I've never not liked him. And I think because he's so aggressive himself, he often doesn't see it. But I'm just pointing it out to him now. Now, Debbie, I think more importantly, one of the things that you would have to get him to admit to is that he would rather dialogue.
He'd rather fight than switch. I said he'd rather fight than switch.
well, yeah, exactly. Because he would have to jettison the notion that it's better for he and I to be in conflict, and that it makes for great radio, than and our discussing issues in which we agree in that 85 to 95% of the time. But he would have to reverse that. You see, because he has thrown out the gauntlet that is the way a relationship should go. We need to suppress that which we agree upon, which is the majority, and elevate that which we disagree upon. So he really has created the situation that we find ourselves. Would you agree with that, Graham?
I'm going to agree perhaps to agree with some of it and disagree with. Like I said, my feeling is I'm aggressive, and maybe we won't agree, but you come off to me, like I said, somewhat obnoxious, and that gets my aggressive style going.
You're missing the point.
Okay.
You're missing the point. You're missing the point.
Okay.
You laid the foundation for the aggressiveness. Don't you understand that? When you said you would rather conflict than peaceable discussions, you laid the foundation. See, this is the thing. There are engines that drive you that you aren't even aware of. You aren't even aware of why you're doing what you're doing. I see that in you all the time. Not just you. I see it in other people too. But do you understand that that is what you call a pour-over or all-encompassing attitude when you say, I would prefer conflict between us as opposed to peaceful discussions? You said that.
I think holding somebody to something that they said one night, maybe maybe he's, and I'm not defending him. I'm just seeing what I see. I think maybe he said that, meaning it draws a bigger crowd to his show. Maybe this is what he meant.
And it's kind of entertaining.
He shouldn't blame me. Well, let me just. He shouldn't blame me for what he creates.
Well. It's only,
he knows what I mean,
Mr. Solution. It's only created with you. I mean, I'm going to be, and it doesn't really bother me. Sometimes I get a little pissed off and I'll stew about it, but for the most part, I pretty much let it roll off my shoulders.
He laughs it off. That I can attest to. I can attest to that.
You know, I'm kind of like when I'm using the word cunt and stuff. I mean, to a degree, I mean it, but to another degree, I'm also laughing. You know, like
but also. But also, if you had a more financially and health successful life, you would feel differently also, right? Like if you all of a sudden had...
I don't think the deposit of $100,000 in his bank account he would be a different person tomorrow or the next week. I would
still tell an obnoxious person.
Hold on. If he had a mere $10,000, forget $100,000, he'll never have that.
How would that change his person? I don't believe that would change his personality. Do you, Brian?
Not at all.
Well, you said it. Well, see, this is now. See, we're
no. I mean, look. I would still be very.
You said it would make you happier.
Well, it may. Of course, it may. It would make me.
Okay, is that a personality change? Being made happier?
Sure, but that doesn't mean I would tolerate abuse from people when I believe.
No one is talking about abuse.
Well,
see, you probably see abuse. If you were happier, you probably wouldn't see as much abuse as you think you see.
Well,
what you should have said, Debbie, if he would lose 100 pounds, would that make him a different person?
That may make me, you know what? That may make me a little bit happier. I think it would be better with my diabetes and my heart condition. But
well, why don't you do it? If you look, if I were
easier said than done.
Hold on, and nothing worthwhile is easy. If I were you, those are the two things that I would work on. Now, Debbie has divulged something. She said that you got a promotion. Is that factual?
Yes.
Well, wonderful. I think that's just grand. So I think I see a slight change.
I was bragging on my baby. He's doing so
you're
good.
In a position now, you're over other people. You're like in a supervisory position.
I told him when I'm talking to him on the cell phone during the day, he's got this radio that goes off. And he'll, I got to go. And they'll be radioing him, and he'll be radioing people. And I'm like going, wow, he's the boss man now.
Yeah, I'm genuinely happy for him.
Yes.
You know, let it be known that, and I think I already see a slight attitude change. Already.
Well,
you're making more money, right?
Yeah.
Well, look how you.
He's very humble. He's a very humble person.
Well, I think...
And he doesn't like talking about stuff on the radio.
Let me say this, Debbie. Let me say this to you. I just want to address that. If you go in for an interview to a supervisor, for a job interview, do you think humility is one's greatest asset?
Well,
such a setting?
but he's not in an interview right now.
No. Please just answer my question.
No, of course not. You need to brag on yourself, sell yourself.
Well, yeah, but you're not lying. You're just presenting who you really are, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, look, that's a good standard. See, there are certain standards that I have adopted that really promote what I want. Now, when you go into a supervisor, for a job interview, no one encourages you to lie. But at the same time, one augments their positive traits. There's nothing wrong with that. See, I often say there's this bigger problem with this so-called humbleness or
meek,
downward humility, not really showing who you are. Because the only way I really know who you are, or the best way, is for you to explain it.
Right.
And I
think people go into interviews and say things like, "Oh, I'm easy to get along with. I get along with everybody. I'm always on time." I mean, that's bullshit. No, maybe you don't get along with everybody. Maybe you're not.
At my job and the places that I work, a lot of times they'll give people tests, a series of tests that test their ability and stuff, and they get hired just as much as that. As on their interview.
Yes, they do it now online a lot. I've seen my friends and my children actually go through a battery of online testing about a position that they're applying for, which I'm going to brag that my daughter just got a new position as a teacher. She got her own classroom, and I was telling the boys earlier that she's more excited about decorating her boards. She has 3 boards, Mom. One has to stay with the school's things, but she has 2 boards that she can do anything with, and she's so excited about her boards.
Is this Heather?
Yes, very excited.
And also they look at your credentials. I mean, I remember when I worked for Sony, and I was talking to people from even the bookkeeping department, and there was not a person there from the bookkeeping department that did not have a bachelor's in accounting, and they said, and then they paid, just as much as a regular accountant because they wanted people who were serious with their job, knowing that they would show up, and they said that a college degree ensured that they had discipline. So they said that's where a college degree comes in handy. They know that a person has the discipline to follow through.
Well, it does demonstrate some discipline. There's no doubt about that. But now, let's just talk just futuristic just for a moment. Do you see yourself retiring, say, within the next 15 or 20 years, and then you can work full-time on your health?
15 to 20, maybe 20. Yeah, I can. I mean, I have a pension set up, and Social Security. Well, actually, Social Security won't. Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish that statement.
A little over 20 years. Yeah, Social Security and plus my pension and my savings.
Do you look forward to that?
If I don't have any health complications, yes.
Okay. Well, good. Very good. So
I have the answer to all of your problems, Mr. Midnight Movie, and I wouldn't say that if I wasn't dead serious. I have found the end all to losing weight. I kid you not. And all it is drinking 2 tablespoons of what I'm going to tell you a day, simply mixing it with water and drinking it. And that is Bragg's apple cider vinegar. The weight will fall off of you. It's scary. It's absolutely, I don't know how it works. I don't know what it does, but drinking 2 tablespoons of Bragg's apple cider vinegar every day, and the weight falls off of you. I've had to go and buy all new shorts for the season because my shorts were so big, I didn't have to unbutton them to take them off. And all I can point to is this apple cider vinegar that I started drinking about 2 months ago.
Is it only Bragg's?
Just Bragg's. That's the only one that comes with what they call the mother, which is the pulp in the bottom. It's first.
That's B-R-A-G-G.
B-R-A-G-G-S. And you can. Yes, sir. And it's. Okay. I'm sitting here looking at the bottle. It's unbelievable. It's a little rough to drink. It's a little, hold your nose, but it is the most, I did a complete show on it called The Potion. I have found, whatever I call that show, something like I have found the magic. Some people are calling it, and some people refer, I just cannot say enough about it. And I went down the street to this little rinky-dinky health food store, and I said, do y'all have Bragg's? Because yes, we do. Right, and it's so cheap. I have this huge bottle. It cost me like $5.99. It's first press. Bragg's takes the apples off their orchard, and they press them with this gigantic press. And that's right, popcorn. It is good for cholesterol. It's good for everything. It takes away acne. I can't say enough about it. And the first press is the first that comes off the apples. That's what you get in Bragg's. And then the pulp, they allow some of that to be in there too. But it's unbelievable. I don't know. I would have to say in the past 2.5 months, maybe just the past several weeks, I have, and I haven't gotten on the scales, but I have probably dropped over 10 pounds, not doing anything to do that. I'm not, doing anything and I eat what I want to eat, so try it, Mr. Midnight Movie, and let me know. Just go out and get Bragg's apple cider vinegar.
I would love to do a show about weight loss, and I will try that. But I would love to do a show about the best way to lose weight and keep it off. I've heard that that carbs is the best way. That cutting carbs and having more of a protein based.
Weight comes from more intake than is expended in energy. That's the basic scientific fact. If you're bringing in more caloric intake than you are burning, then you're going to start building it up in the form of fat cells. The only way to deplete that is to require more energy than it's to reverse it. Okay, so that either comes in the form of depriving yourself of food, or to up the burning of. Now, whether or not this apple cider vinegar ups your metabolism, I don't know what it does. All I know is I guarantee you it works. I guarantee you that it will work.
Looking it up right now.
Really?
Now, let me just say this. 3M, I'm an expert researcher. and interpreter. And that's one of my fortes. So I'm going to get the skinny on the Bragg's apple cider. Now, he may have issues because he has diabetes. He's a diabetic. So everything with him is sort of double compound.
There have been diabetics on this that have stopped taking insulin. It has reversed their diabetes.
Well, yeah, when it reduces, the weight is the big issue. The weight, actually, if he loses weight, his diabetes will probably cease also. But I'm checking it out. And I would say one thing, that I use an enamel toughener, just fluoride treatment, ADA. And, but there was normally cited a problem with the vinegar, the acid, attacking the...
Well, you just have to be careful. Mix it with water. Drink it straight down like a shot of alcohol. Don't swish it around in your mouth, and just kind of drink it straight down. Some people drink it with a
straw.
With a straw. You took the words right out of my mouth. And always, if you need to, brush your teeth after you've done it, or eat something. Just get something on your teeth, and it's going to be just fine. But yeah, you're right. Be careful. It will do that to your enamel.
Yeah, you never mentioned. I don't think I've heard you mention that particular drawback or potential drawback.
Well, you just have to be careful is all. I mean, if somebody's going to get into it, they're obviously, I would hope, do a little bit of research on it. But it's pretty amazing. Some of the online people talking about it, it's crazy. But the things that people say about it, it's right here, Bragg's apple cider vinegar weight loss. The people that talk about, I mean, it's crazy. The people that talk about it online, the videos people have made. The first one that comes to I mean, look at this. Here's one right here, a video where it's a man talking about reinvention myself. He's going to talk to us, I think, right now. After this stupid
I lost
advertisement.
100 pounds with Medifast. I lost
Shut up.
over 40 pounds.
Whatever you
We don't
wanna
care
lose,
about that.
you
We
can
don't
do
care
it.
about that.
I've
We don't
lost-
care about
I'm still-
that. Okay, take a listen.
I want to lose weight. I'm tired of being fat.
I hate intros.
Me too.
I can't stand him. I'm like, people, come on. He's still doing his intro here. Hold on, let me fast forward.
It's really cool to finally get here. Progress has been made, slowly but surely. Last week was actually a lot of fun for me because I got the opportunity to sing with a local band here in Miami called the Street Cats. So we were hired to, perform at a pool party in the evening, which was a lot of fun. So everything's going really well. I'm going to start doing some shows on clean eating. And I figured that the best way to start this episode would be to let you know what I did when I first started this journey as far as clean eating goes. A friend of mine actually recommended a really good product, which is, believe it or not, apple cider vinegar. It's really good. I know a lot of you might be saying vinegar, oh no, but you know what, she swore by this, and then I did a lot of research on it, and it was something that was really a really good thing to try out. I'm not a doctor, so everything is always I have nothing to do with it. Go to your doctor and check with it, but you can do a lot of research on the net, and it's a pretty good product. Basically what apple cider vinegar is, and I'm going to show you what I do.
He's got my bottle.
It's a little different than from the regular vinegar. Regular vinegar, of course, is filtered and processed, like a lot of processed food. You usually find those in your local supermarket. The kind of vinegar that I like and that I've really, researched a lot about is called Bragg's, and you can see it right here. And Bragg's is actually raw, unfiltered vinegar, and you can find it at, a lot of organic stores. I get mine from Whole Foods, which is a wonderful store if you really want to get into clean eating and, take away a lot of the unnecessary ingredients. But if you do pick this up, make sure that it says with the mother. With the mother is what you want because it has like all these little gunky stuffs, and you can see that. Apparently that has a lot of nutrition that you want. So apple cider vinegar, what do you do with it? What's it good for? One of the claims that it says, and I'll read right here, it's a pick-me-up at home and at work, the sport or the gym. It's perfect if you take it 3 times a day. You take it upon rising. That's the first thing that I try to drink in the morning. Anything before I put in my stomach, I drink a little bit of this, and and then you drink it in the afternoon and at night. Try to fit it into your own schedule. But it's pretty cool because it's ever since the 400 BC, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, used it. And it had amazing natural cleaning, healing, and energizing health quality. I don't know. It's pretty cool. The way that you do it is you don't want to drink it just alone out of the bottle. That's not a good thing because it's really acidic. So what you really want to do is, you take a glass and you fill it up with water, and basically what you do is you fill it up with water and you add the vinegar to it. Now, I used to drink soda, and I used to love ginger ale. But I discovered a really cool alternative, to drinking this with water. I'm actually using sparkling soda water, which is a really good thing because it kind of makes it like a really nice tasty drink.
That's a good idea.
This would be cool for like the afternoon.
So the videos are, I just turned on my webcam and showed y'all my bottle of apple cider. I don't know if you saw it or not, Mr. Midnight Movie. Did you see it?
Yeah. I'm actually, I'm going to look into it. I got to get to bed, though, because it's already like almost midnight already.
Oh, that's right. You've got work in the morning. I forgot.
I'll keep the, I won't hang up on you guys because both of you are on the call, on my call. So, however you want to end it.
We can go ahead and end it, and I just, of course, I don't know what to say about having Mr. Solution and Mr. Midnight Movie and Jewish Producer on my show. You're my favorite. You know that. I would rather.
Oh yeah.
I would
Well,
rather.
great. So
I would rather
you-
podcast with you three than anything else in the world. I adore your input. I adore it. I just can't.
Don't forget Uncle Maury.
Uncle Moore, where is he tonight? Probably grouchy and getting thrown out of a restaurant somewhere.
I just want to remind everybody, and it's not that well celebrated, and it should be. My father and I talked about doing a documentary on it. I think July 28th is the date when Harry Truman signed the executive order to integrate our armed forces. And we were
What year?
1948. He signed the executive order. The military actually did not become fully integrated until 1954. The Korean War was the first war that we fought under that integrated order, and basically there were a lot of maneuvering to get that to cooperate, because the brass and the upper echelon did not want to comply. And actually, Thurgood Marshall was in Japan during the Korean War to make sure that we had integrated fighting forces.
Interesting. I think that the Black Panther Party of the 60s would have some different words about that day, but okay, that's great. I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good idea.
Well,
and we are doing we're doing a three-part series on narcissism, and we do have a guest coming on in a couple of days that is huge. He's a published author on narcissism. He's actually going to be on the show. A Jewish producer got him for them, and I think we're going to maybe do it through either here, or I don't know where we're going to do it, but stay tuned. We have a big guest coming on, and we, of course, welcome Mr. Solution to be on the call with us, too. So, that's it.
did you guys get the DSM Volume 5 definition of narcissism?
No, we were getting...
I think it's a little bit of it.
We were getting there.
Know. I'm sorry, what?
We were getting to it, and we got sidetracked, but go ahead. Do you have a DSM?
It's online. No. I always use the one that's online.
Oh, okay.
And the only difference between 4 and 5 is that 5 includes internet, supposedly internet issues or dysfunctions. But I don't see where it's a major issue with anyone. Now, if you're talking about it, I mean, I know this exists with prisoners, people, men and women. And you also get into the issue of people who, what's the word, sociopaths and psychopaths. Also, where one knows better and one knows better but doesn't care. And so I think those are extreme dysfunctions. I don't think they really fit anyone that we have a conversation with. And even if they do, it doesn't matter, because most of us never... Have you ever been in 3M's company, Debbie? Have you all ever really met?
Not yet. It's in the works. It's in the future.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but I would just recommend that, getting DSMs. And all of us, if you look at all of the dysfunctions, some of us have a certain degree of we do.
Of course we do. It comes along with... I did meet Dexter. Dexter flew into Dallas, and we hung out for 2 days and had an absolute blast. Brown Beasley says that it cleans the liver. It also helps to burn plaque and blockages in the veins and arteries. He says it drops... Popcorn says when he started drinking it, it dropped his cholesterol down to 140. Beasley also says many, many things come from it. It gives you potassium. It helps you go boo-boo. Brown Beasley says it helps you boo-boo. It's pretty amazing. When you first start drinking, you're like, wow, did I have that much boo-boo to boo-boo?
Does that get into the bowel movement?
No,
Yeah.
Debbie,
Debbie, a lot of people don't understand the benefit of those 3 that I just gave, but those are the three well thought out principles and premises of success in America. There's no way of getting around that.
Well, have you ever heard somebody say, look at him up there on stage. He looks like he needs to, right? You're right.
Well, one of my criteria for having serious conversations with the person is to determine if they've had a daily bowel movement. Because otherwise they're plugged up. And what's happening is they're toxic. It's kind of like plugging up, closing the flute in your fireplace. It smokes the house up.
Yeah, constipation, if you have high blood pressure or diabetes, it's very bad for you.
Would you have it, right?
Yes. I don't have constipation lately, but when I do, it's very serious. Anyway, I got to get myself to bed, ladies and gentlemen.
Eat more fiber. You have to eat a fiber-rich diet. Okay, well, look here, Debbie. I'm going to be just perusing this particular article, so you good people have a wonderful evening. And Debbie, why didn't Beasley come on? I thought you guys had buried the hatchet.
He's in the chat room chatting with me, and he says he's asking me about when Dexter came down. Dexter fell out of the limousine, and it was hysterical. We were laughing so hard. We were hanging out of the moonroof, and Dexter went to reach for. He almost looked like the Kennedy, the MacGruber film, or what do they call it? The whatever the
Zapruder.
Yes, Zapruder film. And
MacGruber.
He tumbled over the back of it and continued to tumble out. We were going really slow and tumbled all the way out on the sidewalk and was still laughing so hard. And it just was really funny. But it was a lot of fun meeting Dexter, and it was like just glorious. We're going to try to plan something for the fall to have a sleepover at Jewish Producer's house. Me, my husband, of course, Mr. Midnight Movie, and JP. We're going to all have we'll do a live show from the clan out from the ranch at Jewish Producer's place. Sometime in the fall, I think Vic and I are just going to throw our hands up and just jump on a flight and fly out there. And
Jeep Girl's invited too.
Jeep Girl's invited. She'll be your date. I actually was going to have my shirt on that I have on tonight, which I've shown on webcam, that says, "You're just jealous." That's what the shirt says.
How about "Don't be hating"?
Don't be hating.
Look here, I'm going to bid you guys good night, so I'll catch you next time.
Good night, Mr. Solution. As always, right. It's been a pleasure to have you.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night, Mr. Midnight Movie. Yeah. No, if you hang up now, dear, they can still hear me.
Okay, so, all right.
Go to bed.
Debbie, you're my crack cocaine, but I got to go to bed.
Good night.
Good night.
Now it's just me, all alone in the midnight hour. No, it's funny stuff. Oh, this has been a fun show. Last night was a fun show, too. And I always end up having some kind of, let's see, kick me out of the gang. Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm going to address something that has to do with that. Brown Beasley says in the chat room that Goofy Bone and Mekazawa were going to kick my ass and kick me out of the gang if I call into Debbie's show again. I didn't know the rules to this crap when they put me in the gang. You know, I usually don't address those people because it's really sad what they have drummed up over there. They kind of work hand in hand with trolls, I think, sometimes. I don't know. I know the truth. I was there. I'm Debbie. I was there when it all went down. I know the truth of everything, and I have nothing against any of those people. Those people are merely, it's sort of like we were all at the starting gate. Oh, they're very serious. Yes, and you would be surprised who sits at the helm. Very surprised. We were all at the starting gate. And one of us took off, and they don't like that. They don't like it. That my little podcast that I do here grew and grew and grew until it was just ridiculously popular over there, and theirs wasn't. And I'm sorry. I can lie and tell you another story, but that's the facts. And I've never done anything negative to these people. Now, Goofy will say, oh, I hate Debbie because she got me thrown off of Blog Talk Radio. Well, if I were not Debbie, I would follow that up with, why did you get thrown off Blog Talk Radio? Did Debbie simply pick up the phone and say, hi, this is Debbie, would you kick off Goofy? Sure, no problem. Dink. That's not the way it happened. To get thrown off of a network, it's not just a phone call. It's not just an email. You have to, first of all, make some sort of allegation, which, to my most recent knowledge, over 300 were made against me, and a case was never once opened. There were people who did it daily. I won't name any names, but they got to where when it was referencing Debbie Daily, they just simply deleted it, because there were people that formed writing campaigns to write in to the administration of Blog Talk. Now, Blog Talk Radio does police its network in the form of they don't allow slander and abuse of other hosts. And after about 8 or 9 months of listening to this every night, over and over again, he began to have his entire show was based around me. He coined the phrase, the witch in the woods of hatred. He coined the phrase, the revolving door of friendship. He coined many phrases about me, and I could go and tell you more of them. But those are the two big ones that stand out, that he still uses to this very moment. And I simply wrote in to the complaint department. I said, would you please do something to have this guy stop some of this? I mean, just to buffer it a little, because it was a permanent record being made of something that I did not want maybe somebody I know to hear, just some of the crazy things that were being said. And it was all made up, because it was like, he bases his show a lot on make-believe. His whole character is a cartoon character. He does a lot with, like, every night he smokes this imaginary blunt with his listeners. He does a lot of things that are like imaginary. And every night he said, we're going to take a ride on the trolley over to the land of make-believe. And he would call into my show. And it began to become more than apparent to me that this was getting a little bit out of control, because it was bleeding over into hosts that were coming to me and going, what is the deal, you know? I simply wrote in. I said, can you have him curtail this? They wrote him. They opened a case on it. They wrote into him and said, this is not going to be tolerated. Can you apologize on air to Debbie? Well, Goofy refused. He went on his show every night screaming and yelling that if Debbie would call into his show, that he would apologize. But he put the stipulation that I had to call into his show. And I would listen to it after I got off the air to see what he was doing. And he dug his heels in. Well, they wrote him back. That was the last correspondence I had regarding it. But they wrote him back. And they said, we're giving you until Monday to do this. And this was Monday, September 10th of the year 2010. Sticks out in my mind. And he refused. And on that afternoon, his show went 404. When you went to his page, it said 404, which on the internet means not found, not there. I was on my cell phone, and I got the phone call from Jake, my buddy in Michigan, and he said, Debbie, Goofy's show was 404. I was like, what? And I said, oh, fuck. Are you kidding me? Damn it. Well, he hired a lawyer to write into Blog Talk Radio and threaten them with all this litigation, and they gave him back his show. And they said, do not mention Debi, whatever. And they did an investigation. They went back and listened to my archives to see if I was egging it on, to see if I had started something, and they couldn't find anything. Now, they'll say something like, oh, well, she deleted them. You can't delete shows when it comes to the owner of the network. They have access to everything. And besides that, I didn't delete any shows. I mean, I think if a show is really shitty, I would maybe put it on private. Maybe it was like the Skype assholes were all yelling over each other, whatever. Well, he got his show back. He was fine for a while, and then it started up again. Goofy knows that dropping my name brings listeners. He knows that. Or he wouldn't do it like he does. I mean, he has created a show around me. I never talk about this. I never go into it. Where does it all come from? It all comes from a source. There is a single source that it comes from that happened in the year 2009. Another host on Blog Talk Radio got their jimmies rustled, I guess you could say, by my mere presence. I was on the same time slot as they were, as she was, I guess you could say. And people just began to hang out on my switchboard. This person is sort of revengeful, I guess you could say. I don't know. I never would address it. And that began to piss them off even more. So it kind of grew from there. They would solicit people into this, I guess you could say, gang, group, whatever, into this. They've even formed a Skype group that's known as the Super Secret Debi Hate Chat or whatever. And I've seen it. I actually got pulled into it one night by Flavored Cactus as a joke. And then I was kicked out almost quicker than I got in there. And that's all it is. It's just, and then when I came over here, I had come over here 2 years ago, and I did a couple of shows which are still here under my name. And I thought, whatever. Went back. I maintained the BTR show. And I do this just out of habit. I've done this at 10 o'clock at night for so many years. It's like force of habit. It is my time when I can lock that door and nobody bothers me. Being a part of a family that is as busy as this family is, it's a nice thought knowing that at 10 p.m. I get to close that door and flip on the on-air light, I guess you could say. It's so funny because even my kids actually bought me one time for Christmas a silly little it says on air. But it's my time. I've made friends out here through the internet. I've met many of them. It's something I enjoy, and I am sorry that my mere presence seems to rustle the jimmies of people. But I'm not going to yield to that. I'm not going to. I shouldn't have to. Now, you may wonder what happened with Goofy the second time. The second time, I made no complaint. I made nothing. Goofy did that on his own. When it happened to him the second time, it's my understanding from talking to some admins at BTR, which I know 2 of them, that he did a show during the trial of the murder of the little boy in Florida. And it is my understanding that he, in what he was doing to gain #1 status, you have to be in a genre. For example, in Blog Talk Radio, one of the biggest genres is the paranormal genre. Then you can go into, they have all these silly genres. There's the child's genre, there's war, there's all these crazy genres, categories, so to speak. And he would place his show, and when you open a show, every night you have the option of whatever category you want to put it in. Well, I just put mine in talk, and it just stayed there continuously. Well, during the trial of George Zimmerman, when he murdered in cold blood Trayvon Martin, Goofy did a show, and also on Blog Talk Radio, every show that you do, you have the what's called a slideshow, where you have pictures. You have 5 slots to put pictures in, and Goofy put a picture of Trayvon Martin holding up a sign that said, "Avenge me." And what I was told is that at that time he was in the children's books category. And supposedly, now I don't know this to be a fact, this is what the admins told me, that there were complaints made by people that had been in that category for a long time about this show that showed up in their category that was, it had these pictures of naked women, not naked, but, you know, women in promiscuous poses or whatever, and a picture of Trayvon Martin saying, "Avenge me." Which, in my never-to-be-humbled opinion, simply means kill somebody, you know? Well, when Blog Talk Radio pulls the plug on a show, you don't get any warning. You simply just go to log in, and you get this error message that says, "Nope." And from what I understand, just from listening to him talk, when they did this the second time, which I don't know exactly when it happened, he had not secured the downloads of all of his shows that he had done. He says he, quote-unquote, lost his shows, quote-unquote. And I have known men in my lifetime, and one of them I know for a fact, that make huge mistakes and cannot accept their own responsibility, and so therefore they basically blame somebody for it, for whatever. And you know what I mean? My own brother has done this before. My own brother. And that's what you see. That's what's going on. But this group of people that you speak of, they've told Jewish Producer many times, if you continue to talk to Debi, we're not going to talk to you. And I've never done that. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care what shows you go on. I don't care. I'm just a real easy person to get along with here. But these people really have it out for me. And they still, to this moment, this absolute moment that I'm talking, they still solicit hate. Blog Talk Radio knew that. They called it a hate campaign, is what that was the words they used. So, you know, as far as I'm concerned, whatever. I'm not going to go anywhere. You know, I mean, I have just as right to be here as they do. And I don't try to deter people from going to their show or whatever. Do what you want to do. It's no big deal. I mean, but they make a big deal out of it. And like I said, there is one person that sits at the infection of it all. And you'd be surprised to know who that is. Some of you might be, some of you might not be. But I've been around. I'm Debi. I'm the one that knows. If you want to know, ask me. I'll tell you. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm the basis of it. You would get the truth from me before you would anybody else. Other people operate on hearsay. Oh, well, I heard this. You're going to get the truth out of me. And that's the opposite. I mean, if I was testifying in federal court, that's the testimony I would give. That's the facts. And, you know, I mean, that's the only thing there is to say about it, because that's the facts. And so, having said that, I am going to dedicate my closing song to the group of people that refuse people to be friends with them if they talk to me, call into my show. I have more respect for the men that said, screw you. Like Jewish Producer, Mr. Midnight Movie. They've all heard that. A lot of them. The Jew. They've all heard the threats and they're like, fuck you. So, we're doing just fine. This is for all of y'all out there in that little world that you live in. I'll see you guys next time.
Pupusa. Pupusa.
I can't believe it's turned into a lesbian show. I can't believe this has turned into a lesbian show.
You listen to the Debi Reason on iHeartRadio.